Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Now I believe that you're all here with a clear purpose. That purpose must be your one and only resolve. For the duration that you're going to be here, folks, I ask you to forget everything else that's happening in your lives. I know lives aren't easy. I've been there, done that. Bought the t-shirt. So I know what it's like. But you have come here to make a huge investment of your time, when there were a million other things you could be doing right now. But as with anything in life, to get a good return with something, you have to put yourself, how much percent? 20? 20? 100, okay. 100%. 99% doesn't cut it. 100%. All the other problems that you would have had in your mind as you left home, leave them behind. Leave them outside this door. Don't worry, they'll be there to collect when you leave. I assure you, we will not take away any of your problems. We are here to give you, not take from you. So don't you worry. All your problems will be safe just outside the door. But you must all come here with an open mind. I like to appeal to the intellectuals. I'm not someone who likes to speak to people of blind faith, because I'm not a person of blind faith. I like to speak to people who are intellectuals. Intelligent people who will not take things at face value, who will always analyze things, and with common sense try to make sense of what it is we're talking about. And through the application of these principles into your life, you will begin to see the truth. I will always be sincere with you. That I can guarantee. I will be sincere with you. But sincerity and truthfulness are not necessarily one and the same. Because I can be sincerely wrong. Can't I? I could be telling you something that is entirely wrong, but I'm being sincere. I think it's the truth, so I'm sharing it with you, but I could be wrong. I can only guarantee to you of my sincerity. Whether what I'm telling you is the truth or not, that has to be tested. You have to test that. I can promise you that I'll be sincere with you. But you must promise yourself that you will test everything I tell you. Don't take anything I say at face value. You must be analytical. And it's actually quite risky preaching or speaking to a bunch of people who don't do that. Because if you're blind believers, it's very risky talking to you guys. Because say I use a metaphor, it's like jumping off a cliff. If you're a bunch of fools, the next thing you're going to do is go and try it out. And then everyone's going to come and point the finger at me. Now it's very difficult to talk about the Dhamma with fools. That's why the Buddha says, the Dhamma is not for the foolish. It's for wise people. Panyavanta sayan dhammo, nayan dhammo duppanyasa. This Dhamma is for the wise people, not for the fools. Okay, so I will guarantee that I'll be sincere, provided you guarantee that you will analyze everything I tell you, and you will make sense of it. All you have to do is, one, pay complete attention. Because if you don't pay attention, you're going to miss things I say. You're only going to hear bits and pieces of it. And then the risk with hearing bits and pieces of it is you're going to start filling in the blanks. That's very dangerous. Because you're going to fill in the blanks the way you know it. That's a very risky job. Right? So you have to pay attention. So falling asleep doesn't help with that. I'll try to keep you awake, but you must help me. Don't fall for the temptation of catching up on sleep, right? Must have had a long week, most of you. Good time to catch up on my sleep. Comfortable chair, right? Air-conditioned room. Perfect concoction for a good sleep. Right? I'm keeping an eye on all of you. Especially the monks and the anagarikas. Okay? I'm informed that you guys are repeat offenders. Don't make me have to kick you out. Because this is important, right? I have practically nothing to gain out of doing this sermon. Because what I'm going to tell you, I already know. So I'd rather be listening to someone preach to me than me preaching to you. I'm always a student. I will forever be a student. So I'd rather listen than speak. But if you don't pay attention, you will miss out on things. So, today, I want you all to leave. No, don't worry, I'm not going to stop the question there. I want you all to leave with a good, clear understanding of the fundamentals of Buddhist philosophy. We know that the Buddha comes into this world once in a very long time, and he preaches to us anicca, dukkha, anatta. The entirety of Buddhism, if you were to summarize it into 3 words, it would be anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Various misinterpretations down the line, going back to history, completely threw us off tracks. The reason it's very rare to find an arahant these days, or even noble ones, anagamis, sotapannas these days, is because a lot of this teaching got misinterpreted. People started to fill in the blanks the way they knew it. This is why I say don't fill in the blanks. If you pay attention properly, then there won't be any blanks for you to fill. Because I sense that sometimes when we talk about anicca, people interpret this in various ways, and sometimes it can just become something that you know the word, but the essence behind it, the feeling behind it, the gravity behind it is lost. And then we just go back to the old ways. So if the meaning behind anicca is lost, it doesn't matter whether you call it anitya or anicca. It doesn't matter then, if the meaning behind the word is lost. This is very important. Using examples, we will discuss that today. You've all heard of the Big Bang? So there's a theory that the entire universe was once a single point, a singularity, and at one point this singularity exploded, and that was the Big Bang, and the entire universe as we know today is a result of that, right? So if you went back in time many billions, if not trillions of years, and you reverse that time, if you were to reverse time, you'd go back to this singularity, this one point in the universe. If you were to think of Buddhist philosophy in the same context, rewind, or rather collapse all of Buddhism into one word, and that would be anicca. So where there's no anicca, there's no Buddhist teaching. Buddhist teaching does not exist where there is no anicca. Where there is Buddhist teaching, there has to be anicca. It's just a simple word. It's not a long word, it's a very simple word. But the meaning behind it is very profound. Reason you and I are still in samsara is because we haven't yet fully grasped the meaning behind it. The day you completely grasp the full meaning behind it, and the day you have completed your application of it, is the day you have completed your journey in samsara. You will no longer travel in samsara. When the Buddha was asked, what does one have to do to attain Sotapanna? He said, contemplate on anicca dukkha anatta. And then when asked, what does one have to do to become a Sakrudagami, and an Anagami, and then an Arihat? He kept on saying, reflect and contemplate on anicca dukkha anatta. And even for an Arahant, the Buddha's advice was, contemplate on anicca dukkha anatta. So you can see the significance that even the Buddha laid out on these three terms, anicca, dukkha and anatta. You know for a fact that your grandparents didn't get this. Right? They came into this world at the wrong time. What a pity. Had it not been for anicca, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be a monk today, had it not been for that. I'd be living the life that I was used to and just going on various pursuits. It may be that your great-grandchildren will miss the boat as well. It may be. Perhaps this is a very short resurfacing of the true Dhamma. You know how many obstacles there are in terms of getting this Dhamma out, right, to people. Every time we open our mouths, right, there's a whole bunch of people coming and saying, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Everyone wants us to shut up. And that's acceptable. Because what we propose is a theory to bring existence to a close, existence to an end. Because existence is problematic. But for those people who don't see that, existence is problematic, they want to exist, but exist happily. People want to exist happily. In other words, they want to be and happy at the same time. So, be happy. Let's all be happy. The thing is, the two words cannot exist. They cannot coexist. You can't be and happy at the same time. You can either be or you can happy. See, there isn't even a word that you have to use the word be before saying happy, because that is all the world knows. Right? Language is a construct to enable people to communicate. People who live in this world to communicate. That's why you need this preposition before the word happy. You can't just say, happy? Let's all happy. Right? You can't even say like that. It just sounds wrong. Because people's philosophy of happiness is to be and happy at the same time. Be happy. But this is why whenever we talk about something that brings existence to an end, people just don't get it. And those who don't get it, then they start to fear, they start to worry. With the upcoming political changes in the country, the upcoming elections, who knows what can change. I'm not here to talk about politics, but what I'm saying is, the country's future can go anyway. We can't see the future, we can't foretell the future. So it may be that whoever, let's say, comes to power, they take an ultimatum and say, right, that's it, you shall no longer preach the Dhamma. You can only talk about the conventional teachings that everyone else does. They stopped us from leaving the monastery. It may be that at some point they'll say, right, you can't preach to people. They can come and offer you alms, but you can't preach the Dhamma if you're going to be talking about anicca dukkha anatta. So while we still can, let's try and get this. Vaharaka Loku Hamdru, he came into this world and gave us this gift. And of course he passed away. But there were some who were clever and wise enough to take his teaching while he was still here. But then, all these, all the links of this chain will one day erode and decay and die. And then we got to think about what's going to be left behind for us and our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. This is why I say, I can't begin to tell you how lucky you all are to have come into this world at just the right time. How you made this appointment is just beyond me. You timed it perfectly. Time in the stock market is easier than this. I went to buy your shares and when to sell it? Oh, it's so much easier than this. Than timing human birth and when to come into this world. You timed it perfectly. Your great-great-great-grandchildren might come in at the wrong time. And you know that your parents and maybe sometimes your grandparents, they definitely came in at the wrong time. Today we don't know what's happened to them or what will happen to them. But you all can determine your futures. The past is gone, the future is for us to decide. And that all depends on what we decide to do now. Right? So despite all those things you could be doing today, you have all decided to come here. You are making a huge investment of your time, something that you cannot buy with money. I think pretty much anything else you can buy with money. You can buy people with money, right? You can buy anything else with money. There's one thing you can't buy with money, and that is time. You can spend time and buy money, but you can't spend money and buy time. So it doesn't work that way. So to say that time is money, that's not correct. Because if time is money, then you should be able to spend either and get the other. They're not interchangeable, are they? No. Some of the things I'll be talking to you about today can be quite subtle, right? So you have to pay attention, good attention. Let me start off by saying this. See, our minds, they tend to have a self-defense mechanism. Let me explain what I mean by this. We don't generally like to think about things that we don't like to think about. So unpleasant things we don't like to think about. Things that left us unhappy. Things that happened in our lives, events which didn't make us happy, but rather made us sad, disappointed us. We don't generally like to think about these things. Sometimes, for example, if I say the word school days, okay? Now thoughts will come flooding to your mind, school days. But generally those thoughts will be pleasant ones. There'll be a mix of all, right? So everyone has a mix. It's a mixed bag. You'll have pleasant memories of school days and you'll have unpleasant memories of school days. But generally the thoughts that come flooding back to your mind, the memories that come back into your mind will be pleasant ones, like being with your best friend, going on a school trip, class trips, right? Singing, having a good time, going out with your mates, things like that. Maybe if you used to sing, or maybe you took part in a competition, prize giving day, right? Things like this. Getting beaten up at school. These are not things that would generally come to mind, not unless prompted. Or the day you wet your pants at school. Right? These are not thoughts that will generally come to mind unless prompted. Because this is the mind's self-defense mechanism. And this is good, because the mind always likes to be happy. That's a great thing. I'm glad that that's the case. Because if your mind had a tendency of wanting to be unhappy, then this would be an uphill battle. Trying to teach you the path to happiness, the Noble Eightfold Path, trying to teach you about the Supreme Bliss of Nibbana will be an uphill battle. If your mind's tendency was to be unhappy, but your mental tendency is to be happy. Is that not true? Everything we do in our lives is to be happy, right? So your natural inclination is to be happy. This is why your self-defense mechanism kicks in the moment someone says something. An input comes into your mind, and all the memories that generally come back to you are pleasant ones. So if I say work, again, naturally, by default, you'll at least struggle to come back with some pleasant memory of work. Perhaps the day you got the job, or perhaps being with your friends, maybe Friday nights, right, after work, whatever. Generally, the unpleasant memories are not the first memories to come into your mind. And again, this is good, because there are gates. This is your self-defense mechanism. So it's good, nothing wrong with that. And also, we humans have a tendency to forget bad events, bad memories, right? Bad events that might have happened in life, things which made us disappointed. This is why, if you've lost your mother, then it's only when someone reminds you, perhaps a tear comes, your eyes start welling up. But if someone doesn't remind you of this, then, these thoughts don't generally come to mind. That's why people say time is a healer, right? Over time, the mind's self-defense mechanism will start erasing or start suppressing bad memories. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is we need to be able to understand that this is how the mind works and address it accordingly. Because the mind doesn't like to think about things which it finds unpleasant, when we think about and contemplate on Buddhist philosophy, if you begin to see certain concepts as being unpleasant, then the mind will automatically shut down or shut them out. So for example, that there's a practice that is called meditation on the impurities. You will have come across this, meditation on impurities. This is the English interpretation of Asubha Bhavana, impurities. So people I have identified in recent times, 32 parts of the body which they claim to be impure, right? So hair, nails, teeth, skin, various other parts of the body. And they say these things are impure, as in dirty, ugly, ugh, right? And therefore, you focus and contemplate on the fact that these things are dirty. Shouldn't touch, they're kaki. Don't touch them. This is the meditation on impurities. The problem is, you have your mind's self-defense mechanism kicks in. And the moment you say, my hair is ugly, is dirty, your mind does not want to think about it in that way. Your mind does not want to think about it that way. Because your mind is naturally positive. It likes to think pleasant things. When think about this, right? As human beings, do you not recognize within yourself as well as in other people that people generally like to hear appreciation from other people? Who here does not like to be appreciated by someone else for something you've done? And when someone appreciates you for something, you like to hear that, right? And when someone is engaged in fault finding, then generally your mind automatically starts coming up with excuses. This is why I had to do that. This is why I had to do this. But if someone appreciates you, then you will wholeheartedly accept it. Sometimes even if it's not you that's actually responsible for what the good thing that has been done. Sometimes in your mind you're thinking, actually it wasn't me that did it. Should I say that it wasn't me but my friend? No, I'll just keep quiet for now. You'll take the credit anyway. But if it's blame, now that's a different story. I'll take the credit, but when it's blame, oh, hang on. Wasn't me. That wasn't me. You're barking up the wrong tree, mister. It wasn't me. Somebody else. Right? Again, this is the mind's self-defense mechanism. The reason for this is we have this me, self, within our minds. For as long as there's a self within the mind, this is, of course, preservation. Preserving the self. You'll always want to preserve the self. The self is given great value. Me, right? Me is a valuable thing. I am a valuable person. So therefore, you should never undermine me. Overvalue me? That's fine. Don't undermine me. Give me more credit than I deserve? I'll take that. Just don't undermine me. I don't like that. So that is the mind's natural tendency. Now, the problem with this is, so therefore, when you start contemplating on the impurities, you're trying to force the mind to look at yourself. Remember that until you become at least an anagami, or at least a sotapanna, right? Usually, it's difficult to break the connection, this mental connection that the body and the mind are not the same thing. In other words, not the body and the mind, but rather the self is a fabricated entity, and this body, this is not the self. Think about this. When you stand in front of the mirror, okay, say you're going out with friends or for a party or whatever, you stand in front of the mirror and then you beautify yourself, do you know? Brush your hair, makeup, eyebrows, lips, whatever, some jewelry maybe. Why do you do this? So you don't do this? Okay, so why do you do this? Yeah, to make yourself look presentable, to look good. Because I need to look good. So mentally, your figure that you see in the mirror is you. It's a representation of you. Yes, of course you say, this is my face, right? But mentally, in your mind, you don't really think of the face and me are two different things. You think of the face as being my face. It's not just a face that I'm using. Have you ever felt it that way? This is a body that I use? No, we never think of it that way. We think this is my body. I am this body. So when I say talk about yourself, you'll say this is my name, this is my this is where I come from, this is my favorite color, I am this tall, right? This is I am this this is the color of my hair, this is my complexion. You talk about yourself and you're already starting to talk about attributes of your physical appearance. So really, this physical appearance is a projection of yourself. This is how we believe it. This is how we feel. This is very natural. We'll go on to whether it's correct to feel this way or not later on, but this is a very natural sensation. To feel that the body is a physical representation, projection of the self. So this is why when, for example, let's say your mascara, right, starts to it's wet, right? You've gotten wet in the rain, and your mascara has now started to right. So it starts to smudge, and then you have to adjust it. So you quickly take your pocket mirror from your handbag, right? And I've seen plenty of people do this, especially on the morning commute, right? Throughout the journey, that's what people do. Look in their mirrors and then they put on their makeup. So people don't like for someone else to see mascara smudged, or if they've got a little bit too much lipstick. That's not okay. Why? Because this physical appearance is a projection of me. So if someone would find fault with your physical appearance, you feel that as being a personal attack. Is this not why in some countries and in some cultures it's rude to say you're fat? People get seriously offended. See, I didn't know this. When I first went to the UK, I didn't know this. Because in Sri Lanka, right, with our friends, we have no problem with that. Like sometimes, if you'd see a friend after a long time in Sri Lanka, you say, hey, dude, you become fat, haven't you? You put on a bit. So we say like that. And that's just in a very fun and jovial way. So I did that with one of my friends in the UK. And the reaction I got taught me a lesson. You do not comment on people's physical appearance. And that is because they take it as a personal attack. To say someone's short, that's not good, is it? It's very insulting to say that someone's short. or someone's fat. That's very insulting. Someone's hunched back. It's very insulting. Someone's got a lazy eye. To point it out, it's a huge insult. Hey, you've got a lazy eye, haven't you? To say something like that is very offensive. That's why nowadays you can't say handicapped. You got to say differently abled, not disabled. Right? So you shouldn't be saying disabled. You should be saying differently abled. And these are social conventions. I'm not here to, argue or debate whether it's right or wrong. But there's something that we can get from this. And that is, people take their personal or their physical appearance as a projection of their self. So they struggle to break the connection between the two. They struggle to break the connection that the mind is nothing but an energy which arises and passes away. And they struggle to see that, or they struggle to come to terms when you actually talk to them and say, can you begin to think about the mind is using the body to achieve its purpose? So it's like, if you hired a car, right, a hired car, you'd have no trouble saying, I'm using this car for a week, right? You'd have no trouble saying that. Have you ever considered saying, I'm using this body for 40 years? I'll need it for about another 20 years, and then I don't need it anymore. See, the thought doesn't come to us naturally, because we feel that this is me. This is my body. My fingers, these are my fingers, not fingers that I use. Do you see there's a difference between these two statements? Fingers that I use versus my fingers. Because if it's fingers I use, then it doesn't matter if one of these got replaced. I just need a finger to use. I just need a plate to eat. But what if I say it's my plate? I'm not talking about simply the words that we use to express these things, but how we feel about this internally. Because after all, words that's simply that, right? It's just an expression of the way we feel about things. So sometimes when I speak to our monks, I encourage them to think about, don't think of it, Swaminathan, as being your hut or your kutir or your bed. Think about it in terms of the bed that you use to sleep on. Think about it as the hut which you use to spend the night in. Think about it as the alms bowl that you use, not my alms bowl. Because when this becomes my robe, now this is one of my things. I have a personal connection with this robe now. So if anything happens to this robe, then we've got a problem. But if it's a robe that I use, well, for as long as I have a robe to use, it doesn't matter what happens to this. For as long as I have an eye to use, it doesn't matter what happens to this eye. If an eye can just be replaced. Are you seeing the difference between these two statements, right? So it's a different way of thinking. I encourage you to think about your life and the way you use your possessions in that way. Now think about some of the things that you use at home, some of the things you are strongly attached to. This is a good way to actually try and break some of those connections, mental connections. Like if you're really attached to your cuckoo clock, right? It's not my cuckoo clock. It's the clock that I have at home to tell me the time. It's not my clock, the clock that I use. It's not my kitchen. Right? Some people are so attached to their kitchen and the way that it's laid out. Right? Like some women are very particular about, this is my place in the kingdom. Right? Don't encroach upon it. Right? Like the TV room. Right? Some people they're so possessive. You can take this as far as you want, right? I mean, be careful who you talk about it in these terms, right? So don't say this is the wife I use instead of this is my wife. Don't say like that. Right? That can give wrong interpretation. This is the wife that I use. Right? So you can think about it like that. Just don't say it. Okay. So say this is my wife, but in your mind, it's just a person that I use to make life easier for myself. Is that not what a wife is after all? Is that not what a husband is after all? It's someone that you have brought or invited into your life to make life easier. That's why some people don't get married. Because for them, not having someone in their life is easier than having someone in their life. So my children, how would you phrase that? Children who are with me. See, then it's easier to break the mental connection when you begin to think about it like that. So instead of saying, this is my house, this is my car, think of it in terms of the house that we use to live in. So now if you got kicked out of that house, well, for as long as you have a roof over your head, that's all that matters. Of course, you need a roof over your head. It doesn't have to be my roof, does it? Because with the moment you say something's mine, now you have a link. You have put that lasso and it's yours now. So if something happens to that, then the vibration comes down the line and it starts to hurt you. So I'm not saying that just thinking about that is going to help you all become arahants. But what I'm saying is it's a way to think about life and your material possessions, things that you're struggling to give up. Okay? So I've sidetracked, but the point I was trying to make there is I talked about the impurities. So when for someone who thinks of this body as being their body, my eyes, my hair, my teeth, my skin, right? For them to now start thinking that these things are impure, dirty, revolting, is immediately going to send a shock wave down their mind. It's going to send a mental shock wave. Immediately the minds are going to go shut. I don't like to think about it like that. Because what is this after all? It's an insult. Personally, you're insulting yourself. Dirty hair, ugly eyes, dirty skin, ugly teeth. It's very unnatural. And the same thing can happen when you start thinking about anicca. Just like the mind doesn't like to think about impurities. Rather, this is why we talk about asubha is not being impure, but it's a different meaning altogether, right? We've spoken about that in previous sermons. How asubha is not the contemplation of impurities, but rather the contemplation of nothing is worthy of existence. That is what asubha is. Okay, but we've spoken about that in the past sermons. Point I'm trying to make here is the same thing could happen if you think about anicca as being a very negative emotion. So I want you all to take a moment for now. Just take a moment and when I say the word anicca, be honest to yourself. Okay, so you can't fool yourself here. You got to be honest to yourself. Just ask yourself, when I say the word anicca, what kind of emotion comes to mind? What kind of feeling? Is it a positive or a negative feeling? Just think about that for a moment. When I say something's anicca, I say the world is anicca, mother is anicca, father is anicca. Right? Just think about what kind of emotion comes to mind. What kind of feeling comes to mind? Whether it's a positive or a negative feeling. Usually what can happen is people take a very negative connotation to anicca. That's why when sometimes bad things happen to people, they put a hand on their forehead and go, oh, anicca. Anicca, anicca. Something breaks, anicca. It's anicca. People say like that. So they associate times of suffering or times of disappointment with anicca. This is why I've been very careful in our sermons to, when I try to render the meaning of the word anicca, I've always been very careful to give you the meaning as vexatious rather than vexation. And the two words are worlds apart. Vexation and vexatious are worlds apart. Vexation is a feeling. Vexatious is a knowledge. Think about that for a moment. This is very subtle, so you have to pay attention, otherwise you're going to miss it. And depending on how you absorb what I'm trying to explain to you here, your practice of the path can become a lot easier, or it'll just remain the same. So I'm trying to help you go up a notch, go up a gear. Okay? If you get this, if you grasp this concept, contemplation of anicca is going to be so much more fun. Believe it or not, it's going to be fun contemplating on anicca. You're really going to enjoy contemplating on anicca, rather than it being an annoying or a frustrating or a saddening idea. It's not going to be seen as a negative feeling. You're going to see anicca as being a very positive idea. And to do that, you need to be able to see the difference between vexation and vexatious. I'll give you an example to help bring this to life. Just think for a moment. If you've ever seen a freshly painted bench or piece of furniture, okay? Usually you expect there to be a little board on it or a notice. Right? What's it supposed to say? Wet paint. Right? It's supposed to say wet paint. Just imagine there's a bench in a park. You go to the park and there's a bench. It's been freshly painted, but you don't know this. And there's no board on it to say wet paint. So what are you going to do? You want to take a break, so you sit on it. But the moment your bottom touches the bench, now you know what? It was wet. But it's too late. Now it's too late. What would you have wished for? For it to have not been painted? No, have they not done you a service by painting it? It looks much better than it did yesterday. See, they've painted the bench. Brilliant. But what's disappointing? There was no board on it. Had there been a board that said wet paint, you would not have sat on it. You would not have touched it. Now tell me then, you're feeling frustrated now that you've sat on the bench and you got paint all over your clothes, your hands, right, wherever. You're feeling frustrated, you're feeling annoyed now. Is it because the bench has been painted? Or is it because there wasn't a board on it to say wet paint? Which one? Because it was painted? No. In fact, are you not even happy about the fact that it's been painted? See, someone's done a really good job. How good of them, how kind of them. It's the park that you go to every day, and it's the bench that you sit on every day. So how good of them to come and paint the bench. You're really glad about that. But what's so disappointing, what's annoying, is that they didn't bother to put a board on it to say wet paint. Because there was no board on it, you sat upon it. Had there been a board on it, you wouldn't have sat on it. But you would have appreciated the fact that they've painted it. Now you can't even bring your mind up to appreciate the fact that someone's actually bothered to paint it, because the pain that you're experiencing right now is so overwhelming. It's overbearing that you even forget the fact that someone's taken the trouble to paint it. What comes to mind is this idiot. Why didn't he put a board on this to say that it was wet paint? So all gratitude goes out the window, right? At this point. And anger takes the center stage. See, this is where I want you to see the difference between vexation and vexatious. And I hope that the example will help bring this to light for you. Because there was no board on the bench, you sat down, and now you got paint all over your body. And therefore now you're vexing. You're now in vexation. It's a feeling now. You're experiencing the pain that came out of someone's incompetence or someone's indifference. They should have put a board on there. Had the board been put on there, on the bench, after they would have painted it, saying wet paint, you would never have felt negatively about it. Would you? No, here's how you would have felt. Oh, look at that. Someone's been a kind soul, and look at what they've done. Out of the goodness of their hearts, they've painted this bench. Fantastic job. And they've even put a board up to say wet paint. How considerate of them. See, in the previous example, you were left annoyed, angry, sad. But in the second example, you're left joyed, overjoyed even. You're feeling really glad that someone's actually taken the trouble to paint it. And also they put a board on there to say wet paint. In the first example, you were vexing, which is a feeling. In the second example, you saw the board, wet paint, which is the knowledge that something is vexatious. And therefore, you do not touch it. Because it says wet paint, you would not bother sitting on it. Well, unless, of course, you're a bloody fool. Right? If you're a fool, then of course. Right? This is what I said. The Dhamma is not for whom? It's not for fools. The Dhamma is for wise people. So a wise man would never walk up to a bench which has just been painted and says wet paint and say, what an idiot painted this bench. Now see, I can't even sit on it. And actually says wet paint on it. He's going to be ungrateful. And an ungrateful person, a foolish person would say, look at what they've done. Now I can't even sit on this because it's being painted. Now we don't need to talk about those kind of people because they're born fools, they're idiots. We don't need to talk about these people. We're talking about how do we attain Nibbana. Right? The Dhamma is for wise people. So a wise man will look at a bench that's just been painted and it's got a wet paint board on it and go, fantastic. Look at what they've done. And how good of them to have put a board on there to say wet paint. Because now that you have this knowledge, that's why I say it's a jnana, a knowledge, it's a wisdom. The Buddha says, jnanam udapadi. He talks about enlightenment. Enlightenment is a knowledge. It's an enlightenment. It's a wisdom. It's a way you look at the world. So seeing the wet paint board on there, you would never touch it. You would never sit on it. I want you all to be able to see vexatious in the same way. Imagine that everything in this room had a board on it. Not wet paint, but vexatious. Because what that says is, warning, don't touch me. Not physically, of course, mentally. You've all used an iron. When an iron is heating up, there's a light on it. There's a bulb which lights up, right? When the light is on, you know that this iron is switched on. So therefore, you're very careful about touching it. In fact, before you touch an iron, you're going to check if the light's going to come on in a moment. Because then that's how you test if an iron has been plugged in. Who here has ever complained that the light on an iron or the bulb in an iron is on? Who's complained about that? No, you wouldn't complain about that. But what if the bulb goes out? Or if it burns out? That's when you would complain about it, wouldn't you? In fact, you would even take it to a repair shop and get it repaired or replaced. Because what you're saying is, I want to know that the iron is hot. Because that's a knowledge. If I have that knowledge, that prior knowledge, then I will not burn my fingers. See, a knowledge is something that is beneficial. A knowledge is a good thing. Knowing about something prevents you from falling into trouble. This is what anicca is. It's a knowledge. The knowledge that if you touch something, you will suffer. What's the word for touching? Attachment. If you attach yourself to something, you shall suffer. This is what vexatious is. You will vex if you attach yourself. Therefore, vexatious. Therefore, vexatious. Have you all used a tester? It looks like a screwdriver, a tester that you put onto a wire, a live wire, to check if there's current in it, right? If you hold a tester to a wire, a live wire, and the light comes on in the tester, right? So of course, it's being earthed via your body. When was the last time you saw a tester light up and you're, what a stupid tester this is. Look, see it's a live wire, now I can't even touch it. It's stupid tester. Why did the light go on? If it didn't go on, I could have even touched the wire. Do you ever feel it that way? Do you curse the tester for the light going on, complaining that had the light not gone on, I could have touched the wire? No. Are you not glad that the light went on in the tester? Because now you know that it's not safe to touch. So if the light goes on a tester, what do? Smash the thing and then try it again. This time the light doesn't come on and now you go, yes, now I can touch it. Is that what you do? No. In fact, if the light doesn't go on, now you're worried. Now you're fearful, aren't you? Because now you don't even know. Let's say you found a tester, right, in an old toolbox. You haven't used it in the last 10 years. Now you're using it to test a live wire. You're a bit dubious. Is the tester working? Because you keep it to the live wire and you're not sure. So before you touch the wire, you're going to go and check it somewhere else where you know there's a live current. Because you haven't used it in the last 10 years, you don't know if the instrument is faulty. So you take it to somewhere where you know it's working, and then you put it there. Oh, the light is working. All right, now I know that it's working. Then you come back and test the actual thing you want to touch. So actually, are you not glad that you have a tester whose light will light on, or whose bulb will come on to indicate that it's risky? Don't touch it. That's what vexatious is. It's a knowledge. Your tester is telling you, it's a knowledge. Your tester is giving you the knowledge that if you touch the wire, you are going to be electrocuted. Are you not glad that the tester is working? I want you all to be able to see anicca in the same way. It's a knowledge. It's not a feeling. It's a knowledge. Had there not been that knowledge, you would have touched the wire. Now you also have knowledge. But it's after the fact. That knowledge came too little, too late. This is why you have a tester. See, there's two ways you can know something's anicca. Like there's two ways you can know if there's a live current on the wire. One, using a tester. Two, touch it. The only problem is sometimes you won't live to tell the tale. See, don't you think then anicca is a good thing? It's a knowledge. So you shouldn't be using the word anicca to express something, to express your dissatisfaction. Say when something breaks, like Guru Swami Nwaze was saying in yesterday's sermon, I think those of you who were here would have picked up on that. So he said, like sometimes if something breaks, like there's a bottle here, someone rubs on it and the bottle falls down and it breaks. And then people say, anicca. They go, anicca. No, the two things can't go together. Because what's that chuck? What is that? It's a feeling of disappointment. Then you people associate disappointment with anicca. Because now what they're saying is anicca is a feeling of disappointment. It's not the feeling of disappointment, because you can't, if that is what you contemplate on, your mental barriers start coming up. Why? That's your self-defense mechanism, kicks in. I don't like to think about something that I don't like to think about. That's what the mind's going to say. Don't ask me to think about things that I don't like to think about. I like to think about things that can save me. Pair of gloves. Don't we use gloves? Now we use gloves every day, right? No, well, maybe not every day, but say you're cleaning what do you call it? If you're cleaning the sink, or maybe you're cleaning the bathroom, you use gloves. Or maybe when you're doing an operation, you use gloves. You use gloves to not get things you don't want on your fingers getting on it. See, the gloves are a brilliant invention which help people to stop their hands from getting dirty. So the gloves are there to help you touching something that you shouldn't be touching. The gloves are there to help you from getting something on your fingers that you wouldn't like to get on your fingers. Who's complained that you found a pair of gloves at home? When was the last time you complained about that? So you might have complained, there's a dead rat in the kitchen. That you might have complained about. But when was the last time you complained that there were a pair of gloves at home? No, you don't complain about that. In fact, you would only complain that there aren't any gloves at home. There aren't any gloves at home. If there were, I could have used those gloves to get the dead rat out, or to clean the toilet or whatever. I could have used those gloves. But the presence of gloves was never complained about. Similarly, anicca is not something to complain about, because it's a knowledge. It's like a pair of gloves which helped you, or which stops you from getting your hands dirty, which stops you from suffering. It's a knowledge that stops your mind from suffering. This is how you need to look at it. Am I getting the idea across to you? I hope this is making sense, because a lot of people, they think of anicca as being a very negative concept. See, and the problem with this is this, right? When the Buddha speaks about the noble truths, the first noble truth he said was the first noble truth of suffering. Then he went on to say the second noble truth, and he said attachment is the cause of suffering. For someone who sees that anicca is a very negative thing, immediately in their minds, they're going to start battling with anicca. Paticca is okay. Anicca is the problem. This is how people are going to think. I could have touched this had it not been anicca. I want to touch, but the problem is anicca. So touching is okay. Anicca is the problem. That's the wrong mindset. That's not how we should be thinking about it. Touching is bad. In other words, attachment is the problem. So if we think of anicca in a very negative context, then we are going against Buddha's teaching. Because the Buddha's teaching is attachment is the cause of suffering. If we see anicca in the wrong context, we are beginning to think that anicca is the cause of suffering, when it's not. Because then you're going to try to eradicate anicca. No, he didn't say that. He said eradicate the cause of suffering, which is attachment. Now, isn't this what we tried to do in our lives before we found the Dhamma? We kept attachment and we wanted to do away with anicca. Because we thought that, well, we didn't of course know what anicca was, but we knew that things weren't happening to our liking. So we always tried to change it to our liking, didn't we? We always try to change the world to our liking. If your son doesn't, or your children don't do their homework, and if that caused you suffering, what did you do? You scolded them, you admonished them, do your homework. Because you not doing your homework is the cause of my suffering. Was that right? No, it's wrong. What we are saying is anicca is the problem. Attachment is okay, anicca is the problem. Not being to my liking is the problem. This is what we used to think. That's because we were looking at anicca in a wrong context. We were seeing it as a source of pain. Actually, no, anicca is not a source of pain. It's a knowledge which is the source of avoiding pain. It's a knowledge that helps us all to avoid pain. It's like a virus guard you put on your computer, which prevents your computer from being infected. So anicca is like a virus guard that you should put into your minds, which prevents your mind from being infected, from suffering. It keeps out the bug of attachment. Because if attachment comes into your mind, then you're infected. Anicca is what keeps the bug out. Because you would never attach yourself to something which you knew was anicca. Does that make sense? It's a very subtle difference, but it's very important to understand this, because otherwise, when we say contemplate, or I think next week is going to be the meditation week, if I remember right. Yeah. So next week, when we start to focus on anicca, dukkha, anatta, the moment you start thinking of anicca, if it's a negative connotation that comes along with it, now your mental barrier is just going to go up again. Oh, it's just anicca, that's anicca. See, if it wasn't anicca, I could have attached myself to it. That's how you begin to feel. See, my child is anicca now. If he weren't anicca, I could have attached myself to him now. No, that's not the way to look at it. That's not the way to look at it. Be glad Be glad that you have the knowledge that your child is anicca. Be glad about it. So really, you shouldn't be complaining after the vase fell on the floor and broke. Anicca. That's not how you should be saying. You should be saying the word, you should be reflecting on anicca while it's still completely intact and on the table. You should go and look at it and go, I know that it's anicca. Therefore, I don't attach myself to it. Therefore, no matter what happens to it now, I'm okay with that. Which is very different to it breaking and then going, anicca. See, if you have to make up this face, right, before saying anicca, can you imagine the Buddha preaching a sermon like that? Katama Chananda Anicca Sanya. In the Girimananda Sutta, the Buddha asks Ananda, do you know what anicca is? Rupam, anicca. Vedana, anicca. Sanya, anicca. Do you think the Buddha would have preached like that? See, this is the one word that brought all beings ultimate bliss. The Buddha is the one who has understood anicca to its entirety. So who's the happiest man you know who's ever lived? The Buddha. So had anicca been something that was quite negative, then the Buddha had to be the person who was always with a long face. He had long ears, not a long face. Or long ear lobes, not a long face. No, the Buddha had a very pleasant face. He was always very happy. That's because he took anicca as a knowledge. The knowledge of anicca is what we need. In other words, vexatious is a knowledge. Vexation is the consequence of attaching to something that without knowing that it's vexatious and therefore suffering as a result of it. So whenever you think about something as being anicca or dukkha or anatta, I'll come to dukkha and anatta in a moment. It's the same principle applies. Right? Whenever you think about dukkha, don't think, dukkha, suffering. No, it's suffering, always suffering. When if someone talks about Buddhism, suffering, Buddhism is always suffering, right? Suffering, always suffering. So this is why people don't even like to talk about Buddhism, or they don't like to talk with Buddhists. Why? Because Buddhists always talk about what? Suffering. So they're saying suffering this, suffering that, every time suffering. They are such a negative bunch of people you guys are. People always say that. No, but in real terms, right, there can't be a happier bunch of people than Buddhists. Because dukkha is not the sensation or the feeling of dukkha, it's the knowledge of dukkha. It's the knowledge of dukkha. That's why they say knowledge is power. I didn't agree with that. I used to say, I don't agree with knowledge is power. Knowledge put into action is power. But now I'm beginning to see how knowledge is actually power. The knowledge of anicca, that's power. The knowledge of dukkha, that's power. Of course it's power. Knowledge of anatta, that's power. Without those three knowledges, you will vex. If you don't know that something's vexatious, then you will vex. If you don't know that something is sufferable, then what happens? You shall suffer. If you don't know that something is essenceless, then you will be doing things which are essenceless. Without knowledge, you are powerless. You will suffer. It's a knowledge that we talk about. This is why it's a jnana, knowledge, wisdom. That's why you need the mental factor of wisdom to understand this. You could be the brightest mind here, but if you don't have the power of wisdom, you're not going to get this. You could be an Einstein, but you won't get this if you don't have the power of wisdom. And wisdom comes with merit. Through meritorious deeds you've done in the past, right? The capacity, the capability, the potency for you to be blessed with the mental factor of wisdom is something you bring with you on your birth. And then in the association of noble ones, you get the spark. So that's like the catalyst. And then that puts into motion the mental factor of wisdom. And then it's knowledge. See, being able to think about this, right? A mother would never hand a knife to a young child as a toy or anything, right? I mean, of course not a toy, but even if a young mother, or if a mother would see a young child running towards a knife, what would you do? You pull the child away, or pull the knife away at least. The child and knife shouldn't go together, right? So, children, your mothers will probably still do that with you, right? Knife and child, they shouldn't be together. But adults here, do your parents still do that with you? Whenever your mother sees you walking towards a knife, does mother say, don't go to the knife? Right? You're 45 years of age. Don't go to the knife. Stand away from the knife. Does your mother do that now? No. Has the knife changed? No. The same knife that was there at home when you were 5 years old is the same knife that you have now when you are 55 years old. Same knife. Knife has not changed. But as a young child, you didn't have something about the knife. What is it something you didn't have about the knife? Knowledge. You didn't have knowledge about the knife. Now, the knife is the same, but you just have the knowledge about how do you use a knife. Now you are knowledgeable about the knife. Therefore, mother does not have any worry. No fear. So how does one become fearless then? Why is an arahant fearless? Because they have absolute knowledge. This is why your mother now does not fear as you walk towards a knife or any kind of sharp instrument. I remember when I was a young child, my mother never used to let me use scissors. And thankfully, had they given me a pair of scissors, I wouldn't have one of my eyes now. Or Mali wouldn't have one anyway. Right? So they didn't let me use scissors. But after I grew up, then they allowed me to use scissors. The scissors didn't change. The scissors that we use today are the same that they used to be when I was younger. What changed? Knowledge. Now I am knowledgeable about a scissor. Therefore, my mother does not need to worry about me using scissors. I don't need to worry about using scissors. See, we only have to fear, we only have to worry when we don't have knowledge about something. Why do people worry about getting to the stock market? About whatever investment. Why are people worried about it? Why are people worried about getting married? Why? Because you don't know how the devil's going to be a week from today, 6 months from today, a year from today. You don't know how he or she is going to be. You don't know how the market's going to perform. This is why you're worried. But if you became knowledgeable about something, isn't this why a couple Mahatma goes and finds out everything? Isn't this why you have a dating period where you find out about each other? You find out the good and the bad about the other person, because then you know what you're getting yourself into. By knowing what you're getting yourself into, you reduce the risk. This is a risk management strategy. See, it was there even back in the time of the Buddha. Risk management strategies. Risk mitigation. All he said was understand. Become knowledgeable. Become knowledgeable that all things, all conditioned things are anicca. It's a knowledge. All conditioned things are anicca. Vexatious, not vexing. Vexatious. Only those who don't possess that knowledge will vex. Because vexing is the consequence of not being knowledgeable about the vexatiousness of something. See, now you should be feeling very positive about reflecting on anicca, not negative. You should be glad that you have the knowledge that all of these things are anicca. You should be able to walk up to your child and say, Puttha, I'm glad that you are anicca. This is the best discovery ever. Don't know why they didn't put it on Discovery Channel. This is the best discovery ever. Mankind has never discovered anything that is so profound, so unique and so beautiful as the knowledge of anicca. Every being has suffered to date because of not having this knowledge that every conditioned thing is anicca. In other words, if you attach, you shall vex. Simply, that's very simple. It's that knowledge. Have you not seen in the when you walk along the road these high tension lines, right, on this concrete beams, right? On there'll be a sign, a skull and the bones. What does that say? Danger. Are you not glad that it's there? I mean, would it not be only a fool who would walk up to that and go, it's dangerous, I can't touch it now. See, now it says don't touch it. Had it not been here, I would have been able to touch it. Was it not a fool that would actually think like that? Had it not been for the sign, I would have been able to touch it. Isn't this sign your best friend? Isn't this sign that's what's going to save your life right now? Had it not been for the sign, would you not be worried about passing up and down that line, right? What might happen? Think about this, right? If you walk into a room, tiled floor, okay? I don't know about Sri Lanka, but in some countries, if water's been spilled on the floor, the first thing you have to do is put a sign up there. Wet floor. If someone slips and falls, then the business is going to go bankrupt just in paying compensation, right? Because that's how much, I mean, you can't blame them for that. Human life is precious, valuable, and therefore, if something happens, then you're going to have to pay compensation. So this is why people take out insurance and whatever. Anyway, that's not the point I'm trying to make. When you see a wet floor sign, are you not glad? You walk into a building and you see a wet floor sign. Are you not glad about having seen it? Because now you know, if you trust, okay? So listen to what I'm saying here. If you trust the people who work in that shop to always put a board up whenever there's a wet floor, you would not have any worry about walking in any other place except for where there's a wet floor sign. Yes or no? Yes. Of course, you need to trust them. If you trust them to put a wet floor sign wherever the floor is wet, then you would be able to walk every other place in the floor blindfolded. You'd be able to walk it backwards, knowing, I'm not going to fall. Why? It's not a wet floor. How do you know? No, there's no sign. I trust them. If ever there's going to be a wet floor, then there's going to be a wet floor sign. If you can trust them, then every other place except for where there's a wet floor, you should be able to walk without any worry, without any fear. Yes or no? Of course. So that sign that says wet floor, has that not helped you to become free of worry and free of fear? Because now you only need to be careful wherever you see the sign. Like when you drive off the roadside, they have a bend up ahead, school crossing, animals crossing the road, right? Hill, uphill, downhill, zebra crossing, right? These boards, road signs, help a driver. Or do they not? Of course they do. It makes driving that much less risky. Doesn't make driving more risky, makes it less risky. When was the last time a driver complained, there's a zebra crossing sign. Had it not been there, I could have driven fast. That would be a fool to complain about that. Because whether there's a sign or not, what's going to happen? Well, the zebra crossing's up there. Whether the sign is there or not is immaterial. The zebra crossing is there. If it's there, the sign is simply warning you. So anicca is a warning sign. No one's ever complained about a warning sign. Have you not seen fragile stickers on boxes? Are you not glad that they're there? And whenever you see a fragile sign, now you know you've got to be careful when you handle them. Handle with care. Sometimes when they throw boxes at the airports, right, when they transfer luggage from one flight to another, you be very careful, but if there's something that's fragile, you'll make sure that they put a sticker on it, or a sticker on it, because you want them to be careful. Provided that you know that all the airport officials will make sure that they put a fragile sticker around any box that you say is fragile, now you have no worry about what's going to happen. And if you know that, if you trust them, that they will do accordingly, they will handle those boxes accordingly, now you have no worry. If you see, say, some guy throwing a box from his car to the airport cargo, the flight cargo, you have no worry about them throwing it, provided that you trust them that if it's got a fragile sign, they will handle it very differently. See, isn't the knowledge of anicca helping you to become fearless and worry-free? This is how you need to be looking at anicca. It's a warning sign. And a warning sign is a blessing. Don't touch or you shall suffer. That's what anicca is. It's a warning sign, it's a blessing. So you mustn't see anicca in a negative context. You should always see anicca in a very positive context. Because when you see it in a positive context, you'll be glad to contemplate on it. You'll always be so elated contemplating on it. So when I tell you, contemplate on Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana as being anicca, the feeling you should go is, yes, I'm today going to be able to become more knowledgeable about Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara and Vijnana. Because what I'm not asking you to do is think about the vexing part. I'm asking you to think about the vexatious part. So I'm not asking you to think about how much you suffer. I'm asking you to think about how, if you attach yourself to it, you will suffer. See, one's a feeling and the other is a knowledge. It's the knowledge that we need to contemplate on. And the same applies for dukkha. So there's dukkha, sankhara dukkha and viparinama dukkha. So when we talk about viparinama dukkha, I know, like examples that come to mind are immediately going to be things like mother passed away, dad passed away, things, I died, I lost this, I lost that, he died, she died, they died, right? These are the thoughts that come to mind when we talk about viparinama dukkha. But again, we are talking about the feeling of it, the experiencing of it. Remember, we are not talking about an experience in Buddhist philosophy. We are talking about something to be realized, not experienced. Remember, there's two ways you can test a live wire. One, tester. Two, tester. When you are the tester. Dukkha, sankhara dukkha and viparinama dukkha are also things that either you can experience or through realization you can avoid. Buddhist philosophy is to avoid suffering, not to suffer. This is where a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what Buddhist philosophy is. Buddhist philosophy is not talking about suffering. It's talking about how do you avoid suffering. It's the knowledge that you are equipped with. Buddhist philosophy equips you with knowledge to avoid suffering. How can that be a bad thing? How can that be a negative thing? Isn't that the most positive thing ever? When a batsman gets onto the field, what does he covers himself up with? Knee guards, ball guards, this guard, that guard, head guard, right? All guards. Why? He knows that these are the equipment that's going to save him from imminent danger. When was the last time you know of a batsman who went out to the field without a ball guard? That'd be mad. So knowledgeable about imminent danger, what he does is he protects himself. Anicca is the same thing. It's a warning system. When was the last time you complained that on your dashboard, the light went up saying, fuel, you need to refill. This stupid light. It says, I need to refill. See, had it not been for that, I could have driven. Had it not been for the light, I could have driven past the filling station. See, now I have to stop at the filling station. When was the last time you felt like that? Is that how you feel about it? Are you not glad that the indicator on the dashboard is actually working? Because what is it saving you from? Trouble. I want you to see anicca in the same way. It's a knowledge. It's knowledge to prevent you from falling into the trap, to prevent you from suffering. It's a knowledge. That's got to be your dashboard. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. So in your mental dashboard, whenever you see a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, it comes your way into your mind, your mental dashboard should light up anicca, dukkha, anatta. Now in your mind's dashboard, imagine your car dashboard, right? It should light up in your mind, anicca, dukkha, anatta. And you should be glad that you are now equipped with this knowledge. Equipped with this knowledge, now you can avoid falling into the trap. You can prevent suffering. That's what this is for. This is why I say Buddhist philosophy is an insurance plan. It's an insurance plan. An insurance plan helps a businessman from going bankrupt in the event that something happens. Now, employee liability insurance. If an employer gets hurt, falls, right? Employee liability insurance prevents the businessman from going bankrupt. You take out mortgage protection insurance. So if something happens to you, then you don't. The house doesn't get forfeited to the bank. The insurance plan pays up. Car insurance. Your car gets repaired, so you don't have worry. You don't worry about driving your car up the road because you have insurance. If you didn't have insurance, have you ever driven without insurance? How does that make you feel? Okay, third party, you must get mandatory, but full insurance. Without full insurance, some people drive without full insurance. Are they not always worried? If they bang into someone, then who's going to have to pay? The driver's going to have to pay. The owner's going to have to pay. So having insurance takes out fear from your mind, takes out worry from your mind, makes you worry free, makes you fearless. This is how an arahant is, someone who is fearless. Not that they become superhuman all of a sudden. They are now fully 100% equipped with the knowledge of anicca. Fully equipped with the knowledge of anicca. Now they know fully well, anything I touch turns to gold. Wake up. Anything I touch, what? Brings me suffering. Brings me suffering. Anything I touch brings me suffering. So fully equipped with that knowledge, what do they not do? Touch. In other words, attach. Anything I touch is going to lead me to dukkha. Sankhara dukkha and viparinama dukkha. So provided I don't touch it, then that's it. I don't have to suffer. That's a knowledge. One who does not have that knowledge will suffer. What did we do going to school? What did we do at school? We learned. What did we learn? How to live. How to live without falling into other people's traps, without getting in trouble. Right? We learned how to drive. We learned how to tie our shoelaces. We learned lots of things at school. Isn't that a good thing? Because through learning about things, you are able to prevent and avoid pain, suffering, and discomfort, misfortune coming your way. Similarly, Buddhist philosophy is a knowledge. Equip yourself with that knowledge, and you will be able to avoid and prevent any suffering from coming your way. That is what this is about. For someone who doesn't see this in this way, they're going to think that anicca is the problem and it's okay to paticca. That's the wrong mindset. Because then what we are thinking is something that is completely against what the Buddha taught us. The more you become knowledgeable about anicca, the less you attach. Because attachment is what causes suffering, not anicca. See, again, and the other point is, sometimes when I especially talk to newcomers or people who don't generally listen to sermons, and I ask them, what do you fear about Buddhism? And that's a question I have to ask nowadays. What do you fear about Buddhism? Right? Sometimes the response that comes back is, I'm going to have to let go, Swami Nonsense. You're talking about letting go. So that's the problem. I don't like to let go. See, people think that you have to let go of things that you like. And I want you all to be careful when you talk to your friends, maybe. Right? When you try to introduce them to Buddhism, in fact, never use the word let go. When you talk about Buddhism, just don't use the words let go. Because the moment you say the words let go, that mental shockwave hits them. Because what people like to do least is let go. People don't like to let go. People like to attach. What we need to show them is that attachment causes suffering. When you show them that attachment causes suffering, no one likes to suffer. They attach because they think attachment brings them happiness. But when you prove to them that attachment causes suffering, now you don't have to ask them to let go. They will let go naturally. You don't have to let go anything you like. That's not how Buddhist philosophy works. When you understand Buddhism, when you understand Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist teaching, you lose, or your liking for things starts to diminish. The things you liked before, now you no longer like them. Those are the things that you let go. In other words, there's nothing you need to do to let go. You have already let go of them. Like you will have played with dolls, toys, as young kids. Do you still play with them? Adults? No. You didn't let go of them. You just became knowledgeable about them. That's all. See, if I told you to play with your Barbie dolls today, that even the thought of it would make you laugh. Why? Because today you know for yourself it's pointless. You'd ask me, why, Swaminathan, do you want me to waste my time doing something that is so pointless, something so futile? This is essenceless. What's the meaning of doing this? You'd ask me that. If I gave the gentleman in the room a toy car and say just push it around the floor, right, for a couple of hours, and kneeling on the floor, broom, broom, broom. Right? They'd ask me, Swaminathan, what did I do to you to deserve this? Because today, it's not that someone's bent your arm back and forced you to not do it. Today you see that as being essenceless. It's meaningless. You can gain nothing out of it. But as young children, we played with them. Our parents didn't force us to stop playing with our toys. It happened very naturally. Because what happened was we found new interests in our lives. The real truth of the matter is you still play with toys. Right? They're just bigger. I first used to play with small dolls. Now you just play with a big doll. That's the only difference. Right? You used to play with a small car. Now you play with a big car. You used to play with a small house. Now you play with a big house. That's the only difference. Though you used to make play tea. Now you make real tea. That's the only difference. So really you still play with toys. That's not changed. But what's happened is, now you see no value in doing those things. So the moment you stop seeing value in it, you stop doing it. No one forced you to stop doing it. Agreed? No one forced you to stop it. The moment you lost value in it, you stopped it. The same happens with everything. This is why I ask you not to talk, when you talk to people about Buddhism, don't tell them about letting go. Don't tell them that Buddhism is about letting go. Because immediately they think, oh, I have to let go of my kids and my husband and my wife and my house and my job and all of these things I have to let go. Mental barrier. Self-defense mechanism kicks in. I don't want to let go of things. All these things that make me happy so much. I'm a proud father, people would say. Look at me, I'm a happy wife. Why should I let go of my family? Look at my collection of Mercedes Benzes. Why should I let go of all of these things? This is what makes me happy. I'm a proud Mercedes owner, they might say. So the moment you say let go, it's like an earthquake trembling under their feet. This is when people start to fear Buddhism. It's not about that. Don't use the words let go when you're talking about Buddhism, especially to newcomers. Talk to them simply about finding happiness. Because that's what everyone likes to do. Seek happiness. Talk to them about seeing the truth. That's why the Bodhisattva came on his journey. King Satya Gavesi, King Kusala Gavesi. He came looking for the truth. He came looking for happiness. Tell them, I have discovered a path to happiness. Would you like me to share it with you? No one's going to say no to that. I mean, when was the last time you went, I know how to be happy. I don't want to hear you. Would anyone say that? I know how to be happy. Fine, I don't want to hear it. Now, if you say, I know how to be happy, I've just found this thing that we can do that's really going to make me happy. Then the other guys want to know, well, can you share it with me? Because everyone's trying to be happy. And don't even say, I have found the way to stop suffering. Don't even say that. Because then he's going to say, he or she's going to say, oh, you're suffering, I'm not suffering, I don't need to know that then. Turn it on its head. This is not a quest to stop suffering. This is a quest to seek happiness. To achieve happiness. This is what Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist teaching is. To seek happiness, ultimate bliss. Because the moment you say it's about stopping suffering, I'm not suffering. You're suffering because you're not rich. I'm rich, so I'm not suffering. I'm okay. You're suffering because your wife doesn't treat you well. Mine does. I've got 3 of them, so. I'm not suffering. You're suffering. Then people shut down. People shut off. You can't talk to them after that. Mental barrier comes up. Right, so in your compassionate intentions to talk to people and introduce them to the Dhamma, start talking to them always with happiness and joy and how you have found the path to achieving that. Because that is what everyone's looking for. That's why people make investments, that's why people learn, they get married, they have kids, right? People buy things, go places, do things. It's all to find happiness. So approach it in that way. If you are, if you take it upon yourself as a duty to pass on the gift of Dhamma to others, approach it in that way. So, anicca. Are you now able to contemplate and reflect on it in a positive context rather than a negative context? Because if your negative connotations mustn't come to mind when we talk about anicca. It's not a negative thing, it's the most positive thing ever. How can you say Buddhism is negative? Buddhism is positive. It's the most positive philosophy there is out there. It teaches you how to avoid suffering. What else can you ask for? Anicca is a warning sign. Anicca is a blessing. It's the best news I ever got. It's a knowledge. It's wisdom. It's being informed. It's intelligence. Anicca. It's telling you that if you attach, you will suffer. Knowing that, you will no longer attach. Remember, attachment is the only thing that we need to let go. Not anything else. Don't let go of anything else. Not all the skills that you might have learned in your trades, right? Whatever skills and talents that you might have picked up along the way. Don't let go of any of that. Attachment is the only thing you need to let go. So, for example, if you are good at time management, don't let go of that. That's important. Keep it. If you are a good communicator, then should you let go of that? No, keep it. How about if you know how to bake a cake? Ooh. Surely that you must let go. No. Knowing to bake a cake, what's the connection to suffering? What's the connection? Absolutely no connection. Attachment is the only cause of suffering. Knowing how to play cricket. What's the connection to suffering? None whatsoever. Attachment is the cause of suffering. Knowing how to tend to a garden and tending to your garden, watering your garden, adding fertilizer every now and then, right? How does that cause suffering? How does that cause suffering? No. Interior decor, right? Some of you may be interested in that. Keeping the place nice and clean and tidy and looking good. How does that cause suffering? Attachment is the cause of suffering. The day our monks become arahants, they'll still come and decorate the room just like this. They'll still be able to do that. It's our monks who do these things. And the day they become arahants, they'll still be able to do it. Beauty is something that is in the mind, right? Now, do you find this beautiful? So there's a conventional agreement on what beauty looks like. Right? There's a convention. People have agreed this is what, like matching colors. Right? When someone says matching colors, you have an idea. We all have a general idea of what matching colors look like. Why do they do what? Or the decoration? Yes. So I'll answer the first question first. They will not see beauty as an arahant. They won't see beauty as an arahant. But they'll know what beauty is, because that's a knowledge. Like, vexation is a feeling, yes. Vexatious is a knowledge. But you also know that if you attach, you will be left vexed. It's like a doctor, someone with appendicitis goes to a doctor. The doctor's never had appendicitis. Could the doctor not treat the patient? Could they not? Of course they can. Because they know that if the appendix is swollen, then this must be painful. How? The doctor has experienced pain before, but maybe through some other problem. Or let's say the doctor's had appendicitis previously, and they've had the appendix removed. Now they haven't got appendicitis, but they know what it feels like to have it. So when a patient comes moaning and griping with pain, I've got appendicitis, now the doctor knows how painful this can be, because they have a recollection of what this is like. So there's not, the doctor's not going to say, appendicitis. What's that? How does that feel? Is that painful? No, because the doctor knows that I've had it in the past, so I know how that feels. Even if they didn't have that particular complication, they will have experienced pain in some other way. So they know what pain is. I mean, why did the Buddha preach the Dhamma after all? Because he knew, just like me, all other beings suffer. Just like I used to suffer. I don't suffer now. This is the Buddha's thinking. I don't suffer now, but I know what suffering's like, because I remember it. I remember what suffering's like, and I know that all beings still suffer. And that wasn't pleasant to suffer. So therefore I need to help them relieve themselves or redeem themselves from suffering. And therefore I shall help them do that. Like a doctor would treat someone, a patient, for a condition they might have had in the past. So, of course, someone as an arahant would not see beauty in these things, but they will know what beauty is. Having lived in this world, having seen beauty themselves, they will know what beauty is. Now, let's say someone's blind. Okay, let's imagine someone's blind. Having gone blind from a very young age, they might not know what beauty is. I'm talking about beauty in terms of, say, floral decorations. But when we talk about beauty, we are talking about any kind of relief from vexation. If it's through sight, that can be attested to beauty. So just the fact that you're able to see alone itself is a sensation of beauty. Beauty is not the right word to be using in that context, but it's just a relief from vexation, right? But let's say someone's blind, and therefore, see, what is beauty in this country is not beauty in another country, right? We say that a beautiful face has two eyes and a nose in the middle. Where? On planet Earth. In another planet? It's the nose above the eyes. That is what beauty is. In some cultures, have you heard of what a beauty spot is? Of course you have, come on. It's a birthmark, right, on a cheek. They say it's a beauty spot. Coming into this world, did we know it was called a beauty spot? No, it was a view that was implanted into our minds, a drushti. Having a birthmark on a cheek, that's a beauty spot. See, that's the sanya that we gave to it. So beauty is then conventional. It's what people have agreed is good looking. So otherwise, how do they pick Miss Universe? People go and vote. Because we all agree that this is what beauty is. And generally, if you have Miss World, Miss Universe, whatever, right? Generally, the judges will all agree on one person. That's because conventionally, they're all looking for the same thing. Right? So conventionally, beauty exists. It's a making of the mind, yes. But the judges in the judging panel, they're not arahants. They're people who sense beauty, and they're people who still appreciate beauty. So they're able to say that this is what beauty is. Now, what if the judging panel were all arahants? Miss World, they're all arahants. Not the people in it, but the judges. They're all arahants. Would they still not be able to nominate Miss World? Of course they would. Based on information. Based on information, what does beauty look like? They'll have a checklist. Nose has to be between the eyes and just above the mouth. Tick. Right? Complexion has to be fair. Whatever. Tick. Or complexion has to be dark. Tick. Hair has to reach at least shoulder length. No. Cross. She's got a bob cut. Doesn't work. Right? So they're going to go with a checklist. This is how we see beauty also. The same way an arahant would see beauty is how we see beauty. Because that is how beauty is a convention. It's simply something that lies in the mind. Remember, we all have a model of what beauty looks like. And this model has been figured through our previous experiences. Do they not say that a man usually finds a woman good looking if they at least vaguely resemble their mother? This is psychology. At least if they vaguely resemble some of their, either mother or a sister, or maybe a grandmother, because that is what the child has grown up. That's what the child has seen throughout their life. So for a girl, they would see someone as being handsome if they at least vaguely resemble some of the features of their father, because these are the characteristics that they have seen growing up. So beauty is a thing that has been forming in the mind, and therefore a mental image already exists. So whenever you look at something, you are now checklisting things off. How much of what I have in my mind is what comes from the outside? So an arahant would still be able to do this. They will not come up and say this is beautiful because they see beauty. They'll be able to say this is beautiful because conventionally this is what beautiful is. Okay? So why do our monks do these things? Because this is an offering to the Dhamma. This is an offering that they make to the Dhamma. Like we make offerings to the Buddha, we make flower offerings, incense, right? Is the Buddha there? That's just a statue, a stone statue. Remember, when we offer flowers, although we say that this is an offering to the Buddha, in reality what we are doing is we are actually making that offering to the qualities or the virtues of the Buddha. And if you go one step beyond that, actually what we are doing is a karmasthana. It's a contemplation. The flowers that I make as an offering at the Buddha's feet, because remember, the Buddha can be interpreted in lots of different ways. Some people know the Buddha as Prince Siddhartha, who went on to live an ascetic life and then renunciated, and then of course under the Bodhi tree became enlightened. So some people see the Buddha as a person. Right? Siddhartha became the Buddha. Some people would say. Others, on the path to Nibbana, you begin to see that Buddha is really the transformation of the mind. It's an enlightenment. It's a knowledge. So even when the body of Siddhartha passes away, the Buddha nature doesn't pass away. That's eternal. Buddha nature is eternal. The virtues of the Buddha is eternal. The virtues of the Dhamma is eternal. The virtues of the Mahasangha is eternal. They don't pass away with the passing away of beings like you and I. They're eternal. So these are qualities that we revere. So when they make these decorations, what our monks do and our anagarikas, they get together and they make this as an offering to the great qualities. And in doing so, what they're hoping in their mind is they look at, I mean, I don't know what the plan is today, but sometimes, I don't know if you come along to some of the programs, when they make these floral decorations, in their mind they have a karmasthana. I think last week or the week before that, when I came in to talk to our monks, I saw a floral decoration and I saw some bulbs, like 5 of them. It was on a bed of flowers, but behind it was some twigs and branches from trees, which were like thorny trees, branches and things like that. But on that was a bed of flowers, and then some light bulbs around it, 5 of them, which were all lit. So the moment I saw that, I realized what they were thinking about when they were doing it. So the 5 bulbs were Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. On a bed of flowers. This is Ashvada, pleasure. But behind it was a thorny tree branches and twigs. So underneath is just suffering, but looks pleasurable on the surface. What? Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. And they were all lit up. Ignorance. Switch off the light of ignorance. Now you begin to realize what's really going on here. So when they make these floral decorations, I don't know what the plan is today because I haven't seen it yet. I don't come in here looking at this. Usually it's only on a Monday I actually see what's going on behind me. So, but you should be able to make sense of what's going on here. Perhaps there's a message that they want to get out to you. If you're intelligent enough, you'll be able to spot it. But how one of you might interpret it is not how someone else is going to interpret. You can't say that this is the only way to interpret it. Now don't focus your mind on that. Listen to what I'm saying. You can do that later. Take a mental image, go home, or on your way home you can focus on that. But the reason that we do this is because this is an offering to the Dhamma. It's not an offering to the preacher, it's an offering to the Dhamma. And as an offering, what the intention in their mind is, as I make this offering to the Dhamma, may I seek the refuge of the Dhamma. The Dhamma is my only refuge. I offer my life to the Dhamma. Now, for example, when you offer flowers to the Buddha, remember, this is just a stone statue. Right? But why do we put flowers at the feet of the Buddha? Because flowers represent defilements. The singular word for flowers is what? Mala, mal, keles mala. Right? Defilements. And we put them at the feet of the Buddha. We put them at the feet of the Buddha, not on his head. On the feet of the Buddha. So in fact, it's actually not appropriate to put flowers. Some people put flower garlands around the Buddha. And I don't know with what intention they do that, but I don't see that as being appropriate. But when you offer flowers at the feet of the Buddha, that represents a contemplation. The Buddha was someone who stood up, who rose up. Having lived a life of defilements, he stepped on those defilements. He stepped on them, because what does stepping on something represent? Removing it, undermining it, disregarding it, throwing it away, stepping it. That's how you know you throw something away. I step on it, I don't want to see it again. I put my foot on it. That's it's a figure of speech. So the Buddha was someone who trampled over defilements. This is why we put flowers at the feet of the Buddha. And just as he did so when you bring a basket of flowers, when we start the sermon, this is what I think as I put the flowers by his feet. I think to myself, just as you did, Lord Buddha, tread over the defilements that took over your mind, and you were great, you became a great one by rising above all those defilements. May I be able to do the same as I make this offering of flowers to you. May I be able to rise over my defilements and become a pure one. So this is what I think. This is what you should think, or at least something similar. Otherwise, it's just a symbol. There's of course value in that. You will earn merit, but this is how you transform a merit to a kusala, a ping to a kusala. The contemplation of it. So I think we've spoken about offering flowers and incense and water and things like that in the past. But thank you for the question, sir. So it's a very pertinent and valid question. So an arahant is someone who has simply rid his mind of raga, dvesha, moha, which are all manifestations of attachment. Only for as long as attachment is there in the mind will raga, dvesha and moha manifest themselves in the mind. Because raga, dvesha, moha are the fires which burn us. So that's why when we chant the Arya Maitreya, what do we say? May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the bondage of lust. Or you can say the fire of lust, the fire of aversion, the fire of delusion. These are the flames. Rather than the fire, actually you can think of it as being the flames. Flames arise from the fire. It's the flames that burn us. The flames of the fire burn us because it's the flames that come into contact with us. But you can't put out the flames, you can only put out the fire. The flames manifest out of the fire. So if you want to stop being burned from the flames, then put out the fire. And the fire is attachment. This vexation, which is the result of attachment really. So to put out the fire, you got to put out attachment. And attachment is a result of seeing an anicca world as nicca. This is why, if you remember last week, can you get the screen up, please? Last week I think it was last week, or no, the week before that, there wasn't a sermon last week. I reminded you that the reason that we attach to things is not because they are anicca. We see anicca things as nicca because it becomes apparent to us that they are nicca. This is the only reason that we attach to things. If we were able to see that their true nature, we would never attach ourselves to them. Again, it's ignorance. What is the opposite of knowledge? Ignorance. This is why I say anicca is a knowledge. So what is ignorance? Not knowing anicca. All suffering leads from this place. So just to remind you again, so we talked about this the week before. If you were to attach to something that was nicca, in other words, pleasurable. So this is pleasurable. That brings pleasure. But attachment never brings us pleasure. Okay, that is the truth. If we were to attach ourselves to something that was pleasurable, then we would be able to experience joy and pleasure. But attachment only brings us suffering. So in other words, there is never a time when this statement is true. While logically this statement is true, pragmatically, there's never an occasion in which this statement comes true. It never manifests itself. Logically it's true, but realistically it's never. There's no example of this. You can't give an example of this. So it's like saying if fish had feet, they could run. Well, yeah, true. Logically, yes. But there's no fish with feet. So you can't prove it. Right? So, but this equation, anicca plus attachment equals suffering. So this is unpleasurable. Okay? Now, this statement, we know that we suffer. This is why we are here. Right? You wouldn't have come here if suffering was not a part of your life. So you've come here to ask the question, why is it I suffer? And then, given this equation, you realize that attachment is what causes me suffering, but you also know at the same time, I would never, in a sane mind, attach myself to something that was anicca. Would you ever attach yourself to something that was unpleasurable? If you knew the iron was hot, would you touch it? No. If you knew it was a wet floor, would you go and try playing games on it? No. You'd be very careful. If you knew it was wet paint, would you touch it? No. Would you sit on it? No. But, hey, voila, you've got paint on you. So, actually, this is like saying this, okay? In our paint example, dry paint plus touching equals wet paint. Wet paint plus touching equals paint on clothes. Okay, so we know what that means. Wet paint, and if you touch it, you're going to get paint on your clothes. However, you do know, don't you, that if you knew it was wet paint, you would not have touched it? So now you're finding yourself in a situation where you're looking at your hands and going, hey, I've got wet paint. I've got paint on my body. How did this happen? You're asking yourself. So you sat on a bench. You sat on a bench in the park. You stood up. Now you're looking at your hands and you've got paint on you. Now you're asking yourself, how did this happen? Would you ever have sat down the bench had you known that it was wet paint? No. So had you known that it was wet paint, so in other words, if you knew that this was true, this would never have happened. Yes or no? If this is true, then this cannot happen. If this cannot happen, then this cannot happen. Yes? Yeah. So if this is a 1, then this has to be a 0. If that is the case, then this has to be a 0. However, we are finding ourselves in a position where this is a 1. So I've actually got paint on my hands. And that is because you touched it. So this is a 1. If that is a 1, this you thought was a 0. You thought it was dry paint. Because had this been a 1, you would not have touched it. See? If you knew this was a 1, this would have always been a 0. But the fact that this is a 1 is because you thought that this was a 0. And it's because this is a 0. If this were a 0, then you wouldn't have got paint on your clothes. However, now you know that this is a 1. In other words, you got paint on your clothes. That's because you touched it. And that's because, well, what looked like dry paint was actually wet paint. And that was because the wet paint board was not on there. So really, if you are suffering today, that's because of attachment. But you wouldn't have attached had you known that it was not anicca. Or rather, had you known that it was anicca. The reason you attach is because what is anicca, it appears nicca. So if something is anicca but appears nicca, where's the problem? Knowledge, understanding. It's our understanding, misunderstanding, wrong view. So coming to right view is samaditthi. This is wrong view, mithya-ditthi. So where does mithya-ditthi lead to? Dukkha khandasa samudaya hoti. Heaps of suffering. Samaditthi leads you to Nibbana. In other words, simply understanding that it's vexatious, that it's anicca. Realizing that something is anicca is all you need to do. The moment you realize that everything around you is anicca, you would never attach yourself to it. And if you never attach yourself to anything, then there is never going to be any suffering. See how simple it is? That's all we need to do, is simply a change of understanding. You see, if we had to stop attaching, right, that would be incredibly difficult. If attachment is the cause of suffering, which it is, and I said stop attaching yourself. Now you know from life experience that not attaching is not easy to do. If it were, I'll tell you now, stop attaching to your kids. Stop your attachment to your husband, to your wife, to your house, right? And you'll be able to do it. But you know that it's not possible. It's not possible because, well, it's not possible. Because that's not the way to tackle it. You got to remove it from the roots. Otherwise, every time you keep pruning it, it's just going to keep growing. And it's going to be painful. This is why I say, when you talk to people about Buddhism, Buddhist philosophy, don't talk to them about letting go. In real, in real terms, excuse me, no one who's come to the Buddhist dispensation, or even the Arahants, have ever let go of something they wanted. No one let go of anything they wanted. Everything they let go was something they didn't want. I want you to think about what I just said there. In Buddhist teaching, you never let go of something you want. You only let go of things you don't want. Is that hard to do? Let go of something you want. That's really difficult to do. Let go of something you don't want. Is that hard to do? No, it's like, you don't even tell me about it. You don't even have to ask me about it. Let go of something you don't want. See, we're about tackling wanting. Once you address the problem of wanting, then you've already let go. How does that happen? We've spoken about Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Right? You can take it as this, or seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, feeling. You can take it that way also. So if I say seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, and feeling, you can contemplate on either of these. So remember, this is not the same. Okay, you can either focus on Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, or you can think of it as seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, and feeling, as in the inputs that come from your five senses. You can approach it either way. We see these as being pleasurable, joyful, and essenseful. Okay? Because we see these as being pleasurable, joyful, and essenseful, ashvada sapasara, this is when we want them. Or this is when there's attachment. When there's attachment, you'll want it. When you want something, the default state is you don't have it, not having. Now what you do is you try to do something to get it. Getting it. This is abhisankara. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Either in the mind you can see it as Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, or you can reflect on them as seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, and feeling. Please understand that Rupa is not the same as seeing, and Vedana not the same as, that's not what I'm saying. You can either look at it this way, or you can look at it this way. It's one or the other, okay? And when we see either of these as being pleasurable, joyful, and essenseful, as in Nitya, Sukha, Atta, this is wrong information, wrong knowledge. Wrong knowledge. This is the result of attachment. When you attach to something, you want it. Is there anything you want that you're not attached to? Is there anything that you're attached to that you don't want? So as in you're attached to something but you don't want it. Can you give me any example of that? No. And is there something you want that you're not attached to? No. So these two things go hand in hand. If there's this, there's this. If there's this, there's this. Right? So if you want something, then the default state is you don't have it. That comes by default, you don't have to ask for it, you just get it. So I want it to rain. Or let's say I want it to be Tuesday. It's not Tuesday. I want it to rain. It's not raining. At least until the next chitta, it's not raining. Because the chitta with which you think you want it to rain, it is not experiencing rain right now. At least you have to wait till the next chitta to arise and bring in the information that it's raining out there. Okay? So what you don't have, what you want, you don't have as a default. Through abhisankara, and that abhisankara can simply be can be as simple as opening your eyes. That's also an abhisankara. Opening your eyes to get in the information that you wanted to experience in the world. That's simple abhisankara. Now you've got it. Okay? So the point I was trying to make is, Buddhist philosophy doesn't talk about letting go something that you want. When people talk about letting go, without addressing this side, without addressing wanting, without addressing attachment, when people talk about letting go, what they're saying is, you've got things now. You've got a car, you've got a wife, you've got a job. Let go. Don't keep attached. You don't keep on to them. Don't keep holding on to this, let go of them. So what they're saying is, give up all of these things so you can fall back into this state of not having what you want. How does that feel? That's suffering. Like say you walk up to a really successful businessman, you never talk to him about Buddhism. The first thing he asks is, hey, where you go on a Sunday afternoon? Or we go to these Dhamma sermons at the temple. All right, what do they talk about? Letting go. Letting go of what? Everything. Like my car? Yes, like your car. So I should let go of it? Yes, let go of it. Why? Suffering. See, right now he doesn't know what suffering is. So you're telling him, let go. So he lets go of the car. Now what happens? He drops from have it to not having it. Now he's suffering. Now he's scratching his head wondering, hang on, I thought you said letting go was going to lead me to happiness. But now I just don't have it. Now I'm suffering. So Buddhism is false. It can't be true. How come letting go can lead you to suffering, lead you to happiness? It's only leading you to suffering. That's what I say, if you want to still watch TV, watch TV. Don't go and forcefully switch off the TV and tell yourself, I'm never going to watch TV again. Because what's going to happen then? If you still want to watch TV, it's by doing this abhisankara, you are relieved of your vexation. So if you now go and switch off your television and tell yourself, I'm never going to watch TV again, whenever you still want to watch it, but you can't. Therefore, the suffering keeps building up. The pressure keeps building up here. And there's going to be one point where you just can't bear it. And then all hell is going to break loose at one point. And then you're going to switch on the TV eventually and start watching it. And then you're going to be binge watching. You're going to start binging on it because you have been forcing yourself not to do it. And at that point, you're going to feel euphoric. You're going to sense a huge amount of pleasure that you won't be able to break it after that. And then what's going to happen is you're going to start feeling guilty. That's the worst part of it. It's a vicious circle. So don't fall into that trap. Okay, people will tell you, give up. Give up this, give up that, give up the other thing. I tell you, don't. Don't give up anything you want. Give up wanting. Then the whole problem will be solved. Don't give up anything you want, except of course for the 10 unwholesome deeds, the dasa akusala. That, even if you want, give up. If you want to steal, don't steal. Give it up. Don't wait until you don't want to steal to give up stealing. No, give up stealing today. If you're stealing, give up stealing today. If you lie, give up lying today. Don't wait until you want to give up lying. Don't wait until you no longer want to kill to stop killing. No, give it up today, because otherwise the consequences of that are so dire that it's not sensible to wait until you don't want to do it anymore. Give it up today. But everything else, watching TV does not fall into any of the unwholesome deeds. Don't force your children to not play on the PlayStation or whatever. It's not an unwholesome deed. But of course, they are wasting their life. The way to tackle that problem is to teach them that you want to play on the PlayStation. That's the problem, Buddha. Give up the wanting to play on the PlayStation. Now you don't have to give up the PlayStation. Let it be. Let it be. Let the TV be. Give up the wanting. That's why I say, in Buddhist philosophy, we don't let go of things we want. We only let go of things we don't want. Is that so difficult? So don't tell anyone that you should give up things that you want. We only give up things we don't want. When was the last time you regretted flushing the toilet after using it? Why do you never have any regrets about flushing the toilet? Because you're flushing down something you don't want. So you're letting go of something you don't want. Do you let go of it and then get rid of the wanting? No, you've already gotten rid of the wanting, and then the letting go part is easy. You don't have to think twice about it. Like the toys that I said you used to play with. You didn't let go of them and then let go of the wanting part. You first let go of the wanting part, and then letting go of them was not a problem. So let go of the wanting first. Then the physical, material things can let go afterwards. That's why we are not about letting go of things we want. We are about letting go of things we don't want. Only let go of things you don't want. Except, of course, for the unwholesome deeds. There you must let go immediately. Immediately, not tomorrow, today. Not later today. Now. Because those consequences are so severe that you won't live another day to tell the tale of how you should let go of them. That's not the way to do it. They should be let go of today, straight away. And talking about failure, who was here yesterday for the sermon? Okay, so a few of you. I mentioned, or I talked about failure in the morning, which I think is important, so I'll just remind the others who weren't here yesterday. A lot of people see failure again as a personal thing. Like the body, which I spoke about earlier. They see failure as a personal thing. You need to learn to dissociate this personal feeling or taking failure personally. Because otherwise what's going to happen is people are going to start to feel guilty. And there may be those among you who do feel guilty about certain things. Particularly when you come to start listening to the Dhamma, right? And Swami Maharaj start talking about these are things that we have been able to let go. These are things that we no longer need. And through your understanding of the Dhamma, you will be able to let go of these things, and so on and so forth. As we talk about these things, then it may be that sometimes if you still indulge yourself in some of these things, you start to feel guilty. I'm telling you, there's no need for that. Okay, let's say once in a while, you take a drink, you take some alcohol. Let's say once in a while. It may be that some of you feel terribly guilty about this. Maybe. I'm saying you don't have to feel guilty about it. Because guilt will never get you anywhere. Guilt is not a positive feeling. It's a very negative emotion, guilt. I'm not saying it's good to drink either. Generally, we don't even talk about that subject because some people think Sura Mere is all about alcohol, but Sura Mere has much more deeper and more profound connotations, but that's a conversation for another day. But let's say you take your drinks every now and then and you want to give up the habit, but you make a resolve to yourself, I will not drink again. I have listened to the sermon today. That really hit me. I'm not going to take a drink again. And you go home and a week goes, 2 goes, 3 goes by. Say no drink, but you're walking past that black label, right? But it's looking at your face thinking, hey, you want me, come on. Right? But you say, no, I don't want you. Eventually it says, you want me, come on, baby. Right? And then you can't fight the temptation. And sometimes the temptation is so strong that you just fall for it. And then the moment after you do it, now you feel terribly guilty about yourself. Why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. Or it can be cake, or it can be a song, or it can be watching a movie, or it can be anything else. The example I used yesterday was, sometimes when it comes to sensual desires and their gratification, right? Some people do various things. So it may be like, for example, as a monk, okay, as a higher ordained monk, you can't resort to self-gratification when it comes to sensual desires. I hope that makes sense, right? So you can't resort to self-gratification. Now this is a rule of conduct that has been laid out to higher ordained monks. But there may be, say, an anagarika who comes to the monastery and he wants to become a monk and he's practicing, right? He realizes that this is no point in doing this, and he promises to himself, I shall not do this, I shall not resort to self-gratification. But despite his best intentions, there comes a point where he just can't keep to his vows, and the resolve is just not strong enough, and he falls down. In other words, he breaks down, so he can no longer keep to his vow. At this point, this person can start to feel terribly guilty. So I think you're all anagarikas. Some of you are at the monastery, some of you are not still not at the monastery. I consider all of you to be anagarikas. Okay, in other words, you have dedicated yourself to practicing the Dhamma. The only difference is some of you are at the monastery, others are not at the monastery. Okay, so it may be that there may be those among you who have made that resolve, but it comes to a point where the temptation is just too strong and you gave in. Now you're feeling terrible about yourself. What I'm telling you is there's no need for that. A lot of the time, we are too harsh upon ourselves. We forget to appreciate ourselves. And something I said yesterday, and I want to remind this and emphasize this point, is those who can't appreciate themselves cannot appreciate anybody else or anyone else. We must all learn to appreciate ourselves first. Why does this guy blame himself and curse himself for something that happened in the span of 5-10 minutes? Because this was just a one-off event. What about all the weeks that he fought the temptation? What about all those weeks he picked up the courage and didn't do it, didn't fall for it? Why does he not appreciate that fact? Why does he not give himself a pat on the back saying, hey, dude, well done. You fought back the temptation for 3 whole weeks. Yes, of course, it happened once, right? What do you do now? Get back on your feet and let's go again. Because just because you fall, you have fallen. If you now start to admonish yourself about it, feeling self-pity, these are feelings that start to come in now. All negative emotions. You start to pity yourself. You start to feel this small. And you begin to undermine yourself. And all these negative emotions like, no, see, you can't do this. You can never do this. You can't fight temptation, desire. You can't overcome it. You're never going to attain Nibbana, certainly not in this birth. These are thoughts that will start coming into your mind. And sometimes an anagarika might even feel tempted to go and speak to a Swaminatha and say, Swaminatha, I tried to do it, I can't do it, I'm going home tomorrow. That's the most foolish thing anyone can do. The most idiotic thing that anyone can do. We are too harsh on ourselves because we fail to see the good that we have done. We fail to appreciate ourselves. If you can't appreciate yourself, you can't appreciate anybody else. So 3 weeks you are able to not do it. So why do you admonish yourself for just 5-10 minutes where you couldn't fight the temptation? Say watching TV. Right? You promised yourself, I'm not going to watch TV again. Right? You start practicing the Dhamma, you begin to realize that watching TV is just it's a waste of time. It's unpleasurable, it's sufferable, and it's essenceless. Anicca dukkha anatta. What's the point of doing it? And then one day, you just can't fight the temptation. You switch on the TV, you sit in front of it, and before you know it, 3-4 hours have gone by. And at the end of that episode, now you're feeling terribly guilty about yourself. Ask yourself if this has not happened in your lives. You're feeling terribly guilty about yourself. And then, all that energy that was within you, that supported you, that encouraged you to go on this journey, is now pulling you back. The very energy that helped you is now telling you, you're not going to be able to do this. You're a failure. You can't do this now. See, you proved to yourself that you can't do it. You're a failure. Don't even go to the temple again. How can you sit in front of Swamin Wahanse and listen to the sermon after you've done this? Despicable. You're going to keep telling yourself. I tell you, don't fall for that trap. That's a trap. I'm telling you, the mistake was not in falling down. The mistake is in feeling guilty about having fallen down or having fallen. That is the mistake. That is the biggest mistake. Failing is okay, as long as you stand back up on your feet. I'll continue to talk about this to future generations as well, because this is so important. You know, our culture is one where we are always pointing fingers at people. That's the kind of culture that we've grown up in now. Everyone's always looking for faults with others. My children are worried and scared about going home and telling their parents what grades they've got at school. Why? Admonition. Blame. It's a blame culture. This has got to change, folks. Because every time you blame someone, every time you scold someone, every time you tell someone off, your mind becomes a black hole. It's a black pit. And now all you're doing is absorbing all the black energies that now comes and surrounds you. So your mind, because there's a law of attraction, right? The mind will absorb from around it, from its vicinity, whatever is of the same nature. So whenever you look at someone else, you blame someone else, you scold someone else, you tell someone else off, right? This black energy within you is going to keep attracting black energy from the universe. And with that black energy, it's going to kill you from the inside. It's going to hurt you and destroy you from the inside. This is self-torture. We've got to break this. We've got to start seeing good in people, and you've got to start that with yourself. There may be times where you will fail, but whenever there's a failure, tell yourself, this is an opportunity for me to have learned something. I have learned something. I have learned that this particular way of handling this problem is not right. That's what you have learned. So don't think of that as being a failure. Think of that as being an opportunity to have learned something. And also congratulate yourself, felicitate yourself for the time that you have been good. 3 whole months I have managed to be virtuous. 3 whole months I have managed to not break my precepts and abide by my precepts. Right? So of course, all of you abide by the 5 precepts. So there may be times in your life where the precepts are broken. Say you had to lie to somebody. Or you stole something. Or you engaged in sensual misconduct. Don't let that single event break you down. When failures happen in your life, don't break down, break through. Use that as an opportunity to break through another obstacle. Use that as an opportunity to learn about yourself. This is so important, especially in your practice of the Dhamma, because I know, remember, when our monks come and preach, give sermons, right? Wherever, not our monks, wherever, we are talking about things that we do in our lives. Now, I sometimes come and talk about the things that I do at the monastery, and how our young anagarikas and our young monks, the things that they do. I don't expect that you can all do the same things 100% of the time. So don't feel that I'm setting a bar for you all to jump through. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just giving you some examples. I'm helping you find a role model. That does not mean that if you can't meet that expectation today, then you're a failure. Always be able to look back, look behind you, and look at how many people have still yet to come to where you are today. A lot of the time we fail to do that. A lot of the time we just look forward and think to ourselves, great Elder Sariputta. God, he would never have done this. Guru Hamdru would never have done this. This Hamdru would never have done this. That Hamdru would never have done this. I'm a bad person. The moment you say that, the moment you think like that, that's it. The path that you have struggled so hard to build comes completely crashing down. Because now your mind is going to start to say, see how much I have struggled to bring you up this far. Now you begin to admonish me. Because you show that you are your worst enemy to your own mind. Don't be like that. You got to be the best friend to your mind. People make mistakes. Use that to learn, as an opportunity to learn, not to admonish yourself. Stand back up on your feet. It's okay, it happened. Yes, accept it. It happened. And if you get an opportunity, go and confess to someone that you trust. It could be a monk, right? It could be, I don't know, a father in a church, whatever. Go and talk to them and say, Swaminatha, Father, I did this. I shouldn't have done it. I realize it was wrong, but I shouldn't have done it. But it happened. I know that it was wrong and I'll not let it happen again. Excellent. Off you go. Don't do it again. That's it. Yeah, the reason I'm saying this is because a lot of people do come and talk to us. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people do come and talk to us, and they tell us about things that have gone wrong in their life, and they tell, what's the point? I can't do this, Swaminatha. I can't do this. They go into the I can't do it mentality. And then it's very difficult to pull them back out of the black hole. It's a deep, dark black hole. Very difficult to pull people out of it. Anyone who's worked in psychology, or as a psychiatrist, right, when working with patients who have severe self-doubt, self-pity, right, and inferiority complexes. And a lot of the time this is all self-imposed. They're not as bad as they think they are. See, just the fact that you come to a sermon every Sunday, have you ever congratulated yourself for that? The fact that you come every Sunday to this sermon, have you ever congratulated yourself for that? Have you ever said to yourself, hey, well done. How long have you been coming now? You've been coming for 3 whole months now, 6 months now. Well done, you. Who are you waiting for to say that? Who are you expecting a postcard from? You got to take a moment to appreciate what you have done. To congratulate yourself. These are the victories. These are the successes of your life. Celebrate them. Give yourself a pat on the back, because it's going to keep driving you for the next 6 months. Right? Now, sometimes, right, for example, you start dozing off in the sermons. Yes, I make a remark about it. Right? Maybe sometimes I ridicule you or pass a slight comment. Right? But sometimes, after you wake up, you feel, oh, Swaminatha saw me. And then you start feeling really terrible. No, don't feel like that. You came here. You're here. Isn't that a great thing? Even to fall asleep, at least you're here. It's better to fall asleep here than fall asleep at home. At least you're catching every other word. That's better than catching no word. Right? So have you ever congratulated yourself about that? Sometimes when I speak to some of you, right, and say, how was the sermon today? Did you manage to learn something? The first thing I hear you say is, Swaminathan, I fell asleep 3 times. Please, I beg of you, don't make that the first thing you have to say about yourself. Why do you say, I fell asleep 3 times today? Could you not have said, Swaminathan, I stayed awake throughout 95% of the sermon. Just the last 3 minutes, I fell asleep. But the first thing you say is, I fell asleep. See, you're not spotting the positives. You're looking for the negatives. This is the mindset that has to change. You have to change this mindset. Because you're being so unkind to yourself. Someone who's so unkind to oneself cannot be kind to somebody else. Congratulate yourself for having done so well. And if I ask you, did you understand today's sermon? Then don't make it the first thing you say, that bit about this rising and passing me, I didn't get any of that. No, how about you tell me first about what you did understand? Most of what you said today made perfect sense to me. Excellent. But there's this last bit I didn't get. Can you help me with that? Because otherwise we use the same attitude with our children also. You always look for faults. In the workplace, right? With your colleagues, with your co-workers. Try and be someone who always looks for the positives in people. And that has to start with yourself, and that has to start at home, with your family. Right? For example, if your children, if you ask them to say wash the dishes or wash their plate after they've eaten and make the bed, they've done one but not the other. Don't be someone who the first thing you say is what they haven't done. Be a mother, be a father who appreciates what they have done first, because that helps with their self-value. Be someone who appreciates what they have done, and then tell them, Puta, if you had washed the dishes also, wow, that would have been excellent. Well done for making the bed, but had you also washed the dishes, that would have been marvelous. Do you think you can try and do that next time? Of course, Samya, I'll do that next time. But what if the first thing you say is, look, you haven't washed the dishes. You kalakanya. And if you say that, then he's never going to want to do it. See, you need to point out where someone's done something wrong. I'm not saying hide it under the covers. Don't spot faults. I'm not saying that. You got to point it out where someone's done something wrong. But it's the way you do it that matters. With your co-workers, the same goes. Someone sent an email, but there are a few errors in the email. Because remember, you're dealing with people here. People have minds, right? And minds that can be broken, shattered. And usually if you hurt someone's feelings, if you hurt the way someone feels, then it's very difficult to piece the pieces back together. Because no matter how much you try, the cracks are still going to remain. They say, trust takes a long time to build up, but it can be broken like this. So if someone's done something good, appreciate it, and then say, I've spotted that, there were a few errors in this. Of course, if it's a serious mistake, then make sure that they realize how serious the mistake is. But always make sure that they understand that they have done something good. And then say, if you'd already done this as well, it would have been much better. Shall we make sure that it doesn't happen again? Of course. I'll make sure it never happens again. Have you heard of the dung beetle? See, I wasn't making it up after all. Right? Look at what the dung beetle's doing. See? And before you know it, all the dung is gone. Remember, this was once a man, a human being. What they practiced when they were human is what they're doing now. Feces. Okay, that'll do. Thank you. Dung beetles. Can you imagine the kind of sankhara they must have done as a human? Always went looking for dung. In every opportunity, they were looking for weaknesses. In every good person, they were looking for badness. Have you not seen people like that? No matter what good happens, they'll be the first to say why something cannot be done, or why this person is a bad person. And you could say, have you heard of this guy? He's so good, he's very kind to people, he's very generous, right? He helps everyone in the village. And then there's always this one guy who come and say, yeah, but he's a kasipukarya. That's how he does this. An illicit brewer. This is how he gives money to other people. So you're always spotting badness. That's how you become a dung beetle. So I wasn't making it up, right? You've seen evidence now. So don't be someone who becomes a dung beetle. Stop the dung beetle sankhara. Always try to spot goodness in people. Start with yourself. This is what I'm saying. Start with yourself. You should all be able to write up a CR sheet of the good qualities and virtues that you all possess. I mean, come on, you've lived for 45, 50 years, right? If you can't, by this day and age, write a list of the good qualities and virtues that you possess, what's the point? If when I ask you, why are you a good mother? If you can't answer that question for me, what's the point? Why are you a good father? If you can't answer that question, what's the point? Usually people are very hesitant to talk about their goodness. If I say, are you a good mother? But I'm very strict. I shout at my children sometimes. Again, starting with the negatives. Have you not heard when people say, right, how's your day? 99% of people, how do they answer this? Not bad. Why do you say not bad? If it's not bad, why don't you just say the opposite of it? Good. It's good. It's a good day. You might think, how does that matter, Swaminathan? It does. It makes a huge difference. I'll continue to talk to you about a positive mindset, because these are things I used to practice as a lay person, and I brought it into my life as a monk. But I haven't shared a lot with you. But I'll start to share some of that with you going forward. One of the first things I learned when I started to practice a positive mindset and positive thinking is to stop answering the question of how's your day with not bad. I learned to stop doing that. Made a huge difference on my life. Because the moment you say not bad, you've already said the word bad. Not bad. Stop saying not bad. Say it's good. It's a good day. Thank you. Now the Australians say, good day. Pick that as a good habit to have. Good day. Not too bad. Oh, just a little bad. No, it's really good. Really good day. Thank you. Good day. Because whenever you think positively, it's always having a positive mindset always attracts positivity towards you. And then every problem that you face, you are able to look at it in a very positive sense, in a positive way. And that has a huge impact on how you tackle life's problems. I read this story once. Apparently, there were two salesmen. So these two salesmen, they wanted to make as many sales as they possibly could through the year to become the best salesman. And once there was a rainy day, so these guys wake up in the morning and one salesman says, "Oh God, it's a rainy day." He looks out the window and says, "It's a rainy day. On a day like this, how do they expect you to make sales?" So what does he do? He decides to stay home. He stays home. The other salesman, he looks out the window. Same weather. And he says to himself, on a day like this, what a perfect day to go out and make some sales. With rainy weather like this, almost everyone's going to be home. Especially the salesman. See, same problem, different perspective. What kind of person are you? That's what matters. I've said this time and time again. Don't wish for less problems. What must you wish for? More skills. Thank you, madam. More skills. Not less problems, wish for more skills. Even in the path to Nibbana, folks, this is equally important, if not more. Because I don't know any other area in life to apply positive thinking than Nibbana. Because everything else is simply a means to an end. Becoming a rich man, what? Means to an end. Becoming a man who's a real estate magnate, what? Means to an end. Becoming the most successful teacher, means to an end. Becoming the most highly skilled surgeon, brain surgeon, means to an end. Because the moment you get to it, that's it. Done. Death will ultimately remove all qualifications from you. The place where I see investing all your time and energy in positive thinking, positive attitudes, positive philosophies in life applies nowhere more than on your path to Nibbana. Because in that path, everything you do amounts to something. It's not a means to an end. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenges, wish for more wisdom. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Never wish it was easier. Whenever a problem comes to you, don't, I wish it was an easier problem. No, this problem is the problem you need to deal with in order to take the next step towards your Nibbana. So why are you wishing it was easier? When the Bodhisattva was practicing his virtues of patience, now a guy comes and asks, "Can I have your arm?" What did he say? Arm? Oh, just ask for a finger, I'll give you the finger. Is that what he said? No, because he never thought, "I wish it was easier." He thought to himself, "I wish I was better." Next time, don't come for the arm, ask for the other arm as well. Ask for my head if you want, and I'll give it. Remember, it's not the destination that matters, okay? It's who you become on getting to your destination. That's what matters. Your destination will be the result of who you have become on the way to get there. The most educated or a professor in whatever field did not become a professor overnight. He became one over a process. It's the becoming that is what is important, not the destination. Don't worry about the destination. It's what makes you become. That's why when you deal with problems, when you deal with challenges in life, when you deal with issues, you become a better person. You become a more skilled person. You become a more talented person. You become a more virtuous person. It's the becoming of you that is what matters. Don't worry about the destination. That's what matters. So don't be someone who wishes for less problems. Wish for more skills. Don't become someone who wishes it was easier. Always wish you were better. Wish I was better. Say today your children, they haven't done the homework. And you tell yourself, all right, I'm not going to get angry today. Swami has told it's bad to be angry, so I'm not going to be angry today. So you deal with the problem without being angry. Next day they have a fight with each other. So now one could think, I wish it was easier. Yesterday I could handle this problem because they only didn't do their homework, so I could have handled this problem. But today they have had a fight. I can't handle this problem. So now you're wishing it was easier. No. No. Be glad that they had a fight. Be glad that there's a problem for you to solve. Because now is an opportunity for you to become better. Because no matter what problems come your way, you have to be able to improve and grow and mature so you can handle those problems in a very mature way. That is what adulthood is. That's what growing up is. Do you as adults still want the same problems you had to solve as young children? How big is your compit compared to mine? Is that the problem you want to solve today also? Which one of us has the bigger compit to? Why would they call you an adult then? You're called an adult because now you're able to deal with problems in a more mature way. See, this is where your perspectives have to change. And even when it comes to failure then, be someone who is able to face failure fearlessly. I'll guarantee that there'll be times in life you will fall. Okay? You will fall. Be ready for that. You will fall. You become great not in not falling. You become great by standing back up on your feet every time you fall. That's what greatness amounts to. You become a hero then by getting up back on your feet every time you fall. Don't let your weakness define you. If you allow your weaknesses, if you allow your failures to define you, then you're a failure. Don't let your weaknesses define you or your failures define you. Be resilient. These will have been things you'll have learned in business. As I said, the principles are the same. It's just the application of it in different context. You need to be resilient on your path to Nibbana. Challenges will come and you will fall, but get back up on your feet and go. Don't stop. Go. What, you think in my life I haven't failed? You think as a monk there weren't testing times in my life? Of course, there have been and there will be. I'm still Raga, Desha, Moha walking on two legs. There have been testing times in my life and there will be testing times in my life. And I always want there to be. Because this is how I can grow. This is how I can become someone better. So I don't wake up this morning thinking, oh, I wish I don't have any problems to deal with today. What a lousy way to start a day. It's better to have lived one day fully than to have lived 100 years tucked up in bed with having no problems to solve. So, it may be that in your lay lives you have lots of problems, right? So you might think, as Swami knows, as a monk, you can do this, but how can we? As lay people, we have lots of problems to deal with, right? My husband's ill. My wife, she is not helping me with this. My children, they are still at school, right? They need help from me to do this, to get into school, right? With their homework, whatever. Right? I have bills to pay. The bank is sending me red letters saying they'll forfeit my house. Right? All these problems I have to deal with. How can you expect me to attain Nibbana? What are you saying now? I wish it was easier. Oh, Swami knows, I wish it was easier. Then I could have attained Nibbana. No. It's your mindset which is keeping you from attaining Nibbana. Every day you wake up in the morning and say, this is why Swami Mahansa can do it and this is why I can't do it, that's another day you will not attain Nibbana. Be glad that you have problems in your lives, because each of these problems are problems which are helping you win the race. What's the defining feature of an obstacle race? What's there on the way to the winning post? Huh? Oh, right, really? How about we make it easier? Remove the obstacles. Now how do you win the obstacle race? Is it any longer an obstacle race? No. So if you want to become a gold medal champion, then don't wish that they remove all the obstacles. They don't give you a gold medal for walking on a straight road. They give you a gold medal for jumping over the obstacles. And if you fail at the 10th obstacle, be glad that you got past 9. Don't blame yourself for having fallen at the 10th obstacle. Congratulate yourself. Hey, look back. I jumped over 9. No problem at all. Next time, I'll jump over the 10th one. That's how all successful men are made. There's not a single person in life who has become successful without failures in their lives. But they used failure as a school. They learned from it. They didn't use it as a club to beat themselves down with it. So whatever failure comes your way, folks, learn from it. That's all there is to do. Because I know in your lives, you will have various issues, various complications, various difficulties. Some of you might have to argue your way just to get here every Sunday. Perhaps. Right? Maybe you have to deal with your spouses and get them to say okay. Maybe you need to put an application form in 2 weeks before just to get them to say okay. I don't know, but there may be such problems. Don't wish it was easier. If your husband always has a go at you whenever you get back on a Sunday, coming back again late Sunday. I tell you what, this is why I tell you, don't go to these sermons. What a waste of time. If you stayed at home, you could have watched TV together. We could have gone out for a movie. Now you see, I don't even have dinner yet. Don't wish it was easier. If those insults offend you, don't wish that he would stop insulting. That's the wrong tactic. You can't win this game like that. Let him continue offending you. Let him continue throwing you those insults. You grow. Become better. If today he says Modi, next time, ask him to say Valli. That's okay. That is the path to becoming a saint. You don't become a saint by wishing it was easier. Wish you were better every single time. See, this is why I say, even in your lay lives, folks, right, you have no excuse. Sorry to say, you have no excuse for not attaining Nibbana. Because all you need is the Dhamma, the principles. And now the application of that, you have a fantastic laboratory. Go and apply all of these principles. Because at the monastery, right, I am sometimes, I don't get the opportunities that you get. Because I don't have our young monks coming and, blaming me or talking to me in an unrespectful way. So in your lives, you have every opportunities, ample opportunities, because you have lots of duties and responsibilities. And therefore opportunities for things to go wrong. And when they go wrong, ask yourself, what is my mental conduct here? How am I facing this challenge? Am I failing? Am I falling? And if you fail, it's okay. How about if you get angry? What must you do? Tell yourself what? I can never attain Nibbana. See, I got angry. Now I can't do this. I can't. See, I can't. You've been going to the sermons for 3 months now, 6 months now. You're still getting angry? Pfft, you can't do it. Stay at home, you old fool. That's what you're going to tell yourself. Wrong. Wrong. Be glad that you stopped at being angry. At least you didn't pick up something to hit the bugger. And that's because you have changed. You were able to stop. You were able to pull the brakes earlier than what you were able to back then. See, appreciate yourself. This is what I'm trying to get across to you. Every time there's a failure, look at the positive. Look at how good you have been. Look at how much you have been able to achieve. And then don't admonish yourself. Celebrate what you have been managed to do. And that will be your push for the next goal. Do that. Because I'm not with you at your home to tell you, hey, well done, madam. No, I'm not there. If I were there, I would have told you this. But I'm not there to look into each of your lives personally and see the challenges and where you fail and then congratulate you. Because really, this is where you need a teacher. This is where you need a teacher. Right? Sometimes our young monks, anagarikas, they'll come and tell us, Swami knows I failed at this. Usually they don't need me to give them a punishment. Because karma is there to punish. If someone's done something wrong, then karma is there to punish. I don't need to punish. What they need a teacher for is to help them to stand back on their feet. Because sometimes their willpower is lost as a result of what just happened. They lose their courage, they lose the guts. That is when they need a teacher to pull them back on their feet. Hey, don't worry, happened? Yeah, it's alright, happens to everybody. It's happened to me, happened to him, happened to her, happened to them. Don't worry, it's happened to everyone. You can do this, don't worry about it. Look at how much you managed to go through it. 3 whole months you managed to go without it. It's just once happened, that's all. If you've done it for 3 months, what is that proof? You can do it for another 3 months. So what? Go for another 3 months. You've proved to yourself that you can do it for 3 months. Then, okay, you failed today, but you can do it for another 3 months. But what if this guy thinks, I can't do it? He's not going to try again. That's the worst thing. To not try again. That's the worst thing. To not try again. That's the defeatist mentality. Don't fall for that. Particularly on your path to Nibbana. And the same applies in other aspects of your life also. Help your children with this, parents. Whenever there's a failure in their life, don't let that time of failure be their defining characteristic. Don't let the failure define them. Don't let them say, I am a failure. There's no such thing. Because until the moment of death, until someone puts their last breath, there's always a chance to change. Who knows? Some of you here may become an arahant the moment of your last breath. Who knows? Who knows? We don't know that. It could be if you are a sotapanna. The Chutisita is a very powerful one. Because all the other senses are shut down and it's just the mind that is open at that point. And then it's a very powerful moment in anyone's life, particularly if someone's a sotapanna. And at that point, people can go on to achieving arahathood. Who knows? So how can you say someone's a failure? Don't define people with failures, and particularly don't define yourself as a failure. Events in your life have happened in a certain way, and there are things that have led up to a failure. So go back and fix the faults. Fix the causes, and then you don't need to worry about the result. Fix the causes. The Buddha is the perfect example for all of us to take this valuable lesson from. How many times do you think he failed on his quest to become the Buddha? An infinite number of times he has failed. Every life as a Bodhisattva, what happened? He failed. Every life as a Bodhisattva, he wanted to become a Buddha. In that life, he wanted to become a Buddha. In the next life, he wanted to become a Buddha. And the very next life, he wanted to become a Buddha. Every life he tried to become a Buddha, and every life he failed. For 20 incalculable eons and 400,000 more, he tried to become a Buddha. What if 2 incalculable eons afterwards? Don't you think he would have had the power to look back into his past It's not just when he became a Buddha he was able to achieve that supernormal power. And even previous lives he was able to do that. 2 incalculable eons afterwards, what if he had looked back in his past and said, I want to become a Buddha, I've never become a Buddha in the last 2 incalculable eons. I can't do this. What if he had said that to himself? We would not have a Buddha today. How long must you keep trying? Give it to me in one word. Until. Until. Whenever you fail, get back up. How many times? Until. Until the job is done. It's do or die. Do or die. I'm here to do it. I'll die trying. If you came to the sermon on Wednesday, what did Guru Andhra say? Burn all other bridges. Burn all other bridges. It's do or die. At our school, they had this motto, Disque or Discede. I loved it. Either study or get the hell out. I loved it. Study or get the hell out. And the same goes. I'm here as a human being to do it. I shall do or die trying. No matter what the circumstances, I'm here to do it. And I want you all to come to this monastery, walk into this room, sit down on those benches, on those chairs. Every time we do this sermon, I need you to make that firm resolve. I'm here to do it and I shall die trying. Until I'm able to do it, I will do it. Never give up. Don't let any excuse come and clutter your mind up. Don't let it. Because there's plenty of people out there saying you can't do it. Every birth in samsara you came across asatpurushas who constantly reminded you, hey, you ain't gonna do it. You can't do this. How can you do it? You're a woman. How can you do it? You woman. If you stand for feminism, here's what you need to do. Prove that women can do it. Prove it. That's what feminism is all about. Prove it that you can attain Nibbana. All of you women in the room. Prove it. Because you can. That's what feminism is about. Because every man and his dog out there saying, women, they can't do it. How pathetic. Of course they can do it. All it requires is a vision, a plan, and some motivation to get there. Have that vision. Do it or die trying. Because this is the only thing that's worth doing. And you know that now. Everything else is a means to an end. Do you not know that now? Becoming wealthy means to an end. Becoming a mother, what is that? A means to an end. How long can you be a mother? Until the end. Becoming a father means to an end. Becoming a doctor means to an end. Becoming a teacher means to an end. Becoming a billionaire, what? Means to an end. Everything else is a means to an end. At the end of this, when the last clock goes tick, that's it. Reverse. Back to zero. Start from zero. It's like a snake and ladder game. You can only keep going until you hit that snake. And then when you hit it, back to zero. Start from scratch. What's the point? How many times have you done it now? Who has not been a mother in samsara? Who's not been a father in samsara? Who's not been a husband or a wife? Who's not been a billionaire in samsara? Who's not been the Sakradeva in samsara? Who's not been the Mahabrahma in samsara? What have you not been in samsara? We've been everything there is to be in samsara. Everything. The only thing we haven't been is an arahant. So let's do it or die trying. Because you can all do it. I promise you, if you follow the path that the Buddha has taught, you can do it. You can absolutely do it. So simple, so straightforward. All that requires is knowledge This wisdom, right? Understand what anicca is, understand what anatta is, understand what dukkha is. Understand them as being knowledges. This is a wisdom. This is an understanding. It's not to experience, it's to realize. Once you realized it, now put it into practice. Practice will make you perfect. How long do you keep practicing? Until. If it takes you another 60 years, then too long, huh? No, it takes you 160 years. Then, is it too long? No. Until. You can all do it. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here otherwise. And I didn't come here because I didn't have any other means to live by. I didn't come here because I had failed in life. I came here because I was victorious in life. And I found the one thing that superseded everything else in terms of what can bring me happiness in life. This is why I'm here. I don't consider myself a failure in life. This is the one thing that I hadn't discovered. This is why I say not a day goes by where I think, oh, I should have stayed at home. Not a day has passed by in my life where I have felt that way. So I have come here because I have complete faith and conviction that the path is true and the path is right. Makes sense, perfect sense. And I'm so glad that it boils down to ultimately is just the way we look at the world. Right? We see what is anicca as being nicca. That is the only problem, nothing else. See, the problem is not attachment. The problem is seeing an anicca world as nicca. That's the problem. Fix that and everything else will be fixed. Just one switch I need to flick. Right now, as I keep flicking it falls back down. And then do it again and it falls back down. Keep pressing it up and it falls back down, like a trip switch. All I need to do is keep doing it. One day it will stick. That's it. Job done. How many times must you keep doing it? Until. So let's do it. We can all do it. I want you all to also start making some goals around your goal of Nibbana. Because remember, Nibbana is not a smart goal. Unfortunately. It's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's realistic, but it's not timely. Because you can't say, I'm going to attain Nibbana in the next 2 years. Because it doesn't work like that. You don't know when. Because the T is until. That's the problem. Right? But there are things you can have as milestones along the way. Milestones. Like giving up cake. That can be a milestone. You should be able to sit, say, somewhere where people are having food and be able to fight the temptation to eat. That's a milestone. You can try that. These are milestones on the way to Nibbana. You should be able to get a message on your phone, a notification alert on your phone, and not be able to check it. Isn't that a temptation? When your phone goes beep beep, what's the next thing you want to do? I want to check it now. That's a strong temptation. Why? The moment you do it, there's a rush of feel-good hormones. Now you become addicted to it. Can't break the habit. You should have a milestone, like someone's in the living room, they're watching TV. Be able to walk past the TV without glancing at it. That's a milestone. Someone's sat down saying your name, they're having a conversation. You should be able to not pay attention to what they're saying. They're talking about you, but you're okay with not paying attention to it. You should be okay with that. How about drinking tea without sugar? That's a milestone. Or if you don't like sugar, then try drinking tea with sugar. That's a milestone. If you can't clean your toilet, then set yourself a milestone. I want to clean the toilet. If you have a glove on, you should be able to put your hand into the hole. Yes or no? That's a milestone. Set yourself a smart goal, specific. Of course, what? Put your hand into the thing. Is it measurable? Yes. Is it achievable? Of course. Is it relevant? Well, duh. And is it timely? Yes, I'm going to do it in the next 3 weeks. The first time you do it, you're going to puke for a week. It's going to take you another week to recover, and then you've got 1 week left to do it. That's why I said 3 weeks. But it's a smart goal, and you should. It's a milestone. It's a milestone. The friend that you used to be friends with, but now you fell out and now you don't talk with each other, right? Give them a call. Ooh. You left the relationship on a very sour note. Give them a call. And if you're struggling with it, what does that tell you? You have defilements. Milestone. Set yourself that milestone. Is it specific? Of course. Measurable? Yes. Give the call. Achievable? Yeah. Relevant? Damn right. Timely? Set yourself a goal. I'm going to do it in the next 2 weeks. Make a plan. What am I going to say when I ring her? What time am I going to call her? Make a plan and then do it. You will feel over the moon after you've done it because you can go and tick the damn goal. Done it. You feel so good about yourself. Try it. I've started setting milestones for our monks because Nibbana is not a smart goal. That's the problem with it. But these milestones will get you there. You're creative. Right? Things you will have learned in your workplaces. Bring those things in. Now, start using them. Be creative. Set yourself some goals. Give your kids goals. You should be able to go and sit in a stinky toilet and meditate for 15 minutes. Someone's just farted in there. You should be able to stay in the room and sit down meditation. Yes or no? If it stinks, who's the problem with? You. Because there's still pleasant and unpleasant smells in your world. An arahant would have no problem with that. So there's a goal for you. Do it. I think I've asked you once before to do this. After you've mix some food, put in your mouth. Spit it out again and try and put it back in your mouth again. That one's gone unconscious. Why? What was it before going into the mouth? Food, and in the mouth it was saliva. Right? Now mouth, what happened next? Food in the mouth. Now food and saliva. Spit it back out. Now what's on the plate? Food and saliva. So what's going back in? The same thing that was there 10 seconds ago. So what's the problem now? Defilements. Until you're able to do this, you can't attain arahanthood. How about that? Isn't that a smart goal? That's a smart goal. Set yourself a time scale. You don't have to do it tomorrow if you can't. But you got to start someday and you got to start somewhere. If you can't mix curd and rice and eat them together, set yourself a smart goal. If you always have to wash your mug after you've had your cup of tea before you drink water in it, then set yourself a smart goal. You should be able to drink it before washing it, without washing it. If you can't drink a cold cup of tea, set yourself a smart goal because you should be able to do it. Just because the tea's gone cold, why can you not drink it now? Defilements. Because there's a upadana inside of you. You're clinging on to the idea that tea has to be hot. That's a defilement. An arahant would have no problem with it. And one day make yourself a bitter gourd soup. Karavila soup. You should be able to drink it. Smart goal. Don't do it all at once. Okay, these are things. Spread it out. Otherwise, we might not see you next week. And you can all turn the bus to the ICU. Right? But these are smart goals, sir. Come up with some smart goals. You're all creative people. Come up with smart goals. I'll give you more ideas in the next week or so. But you can come up with your own smart goals. And when you come up with smart goals, share it with each other. If you have a list, come up and leave it here, then I can share some of it with the others. How helpful and useful might that be? Smart goals. These are things I try myself to see where I am on the journey. Because you can test yourself this way. One day, say, if one of our monks say that he's become an arahant, let's say one of our monks attained that state. One of the things that we might do is get a blue film and say, watch it. Watch it. Tell me what happens. He should be able to say what? Nothing. Yes or no? Yes. He should be able to watch a horror film. And? So if you can't watch a horror film today, then smart goal it. If you can't see blood today, if there's an operation and you see blood, you faint. Right? Set yourself a smart goal. You should be able to look at blood and have no problem with it. If you can't, then defilements. If you see someone puke in front of you and you start puking, no? Defilements. Set yourself a smart goal. When will I be able to overcome this? Well, keep trying. Keep trying until. You're creative people, right? You all got good experience in life, so be creative. And I ask you, when you come up with some ideas and bring it to me, and then we can share it with others. Because these are all good things you can do on your path to Nibbana, just to help you, encourage you on your journey. Okay, but for all that, you need to understand the concept of anicca very clearly. Right? So that is what I wanted to give you as the main message of today's sermon. Be able to look at anicca in a very positive context. It's not something you should look at in a negative context. Because for as long as you look at it from a negative context, the moment you start contemplating on it, your mind goes shut. The mental barriers come up, right? And your self-defense mechanism kicks in. Look at it from a very positive context. You should be glad to have been blessed with the wisdom or with the knowledge of anicca. It's the knowledge of anicca which will help you from falling into the pit of suffering. So look at it and see it as a blessing. So therefore, the more you realize anicca, the more happy you will be. That's the way it works. Okay, so on that note, we'll conclude the sermon. So, Channa Maitri. I have been informed also that you have all gotten together and made a incredible donation to the monastery in terms of offering a uniform to our anagarikas. So our anagarikas have, you'll have seen them wearing all sorts of clothes, right, sarongs and trousers and whatnot, when they're at the monastery. But they have been asking for a uniform for a long time now, and we've said, well, wait, we'll see what we can cobble up together. But we're incredibly grateful that you have, I think a lot of you have gotten together and produced these uniforms that they can now use. So to have that uniformity among them is good, because it means that our visitors can also recognize them, and it also means that we're all equal, right? So it's a symbol of that. Once you come past the gate, we're all equal. This is why all our monks, no matter what walk of life we come from, we're all equal after we've gotten here. Whether you're rich or you're poor, whether you're whatever walks of life you've come from, we're all equal after we've come here. So to have a uniform is incredibly useful in that context. So we are grateful for you having made that donation. But also remember that what you have made, this offering that you have made, is an offering to the Shasana. Okay, don't think of it as a personal offering to anybody. It's an offering to the Shasana. And whatever you do to the Shasana is really something you do for whom? For yourselves. Right? When we transfer merits, we will transfer merits to those who have gotten together to make this offering. And when you do so, I want you all to remind yourselves that this is a way that you're paying your debts to the Shasana. I believe that the day I have paid all my debts to the Shasana is the day that I will become an Arahant. Until then, I have debts to pay. This is why I'm preaching. One of the reasons I'm preaching, because when I preach, I'm repaying my debts to the Shasana. Right? So when you help someone else listen to the Dhamma, when you transcribe sermons and give it to them, you're paying your debts to the Shasana. Whenever you make offerings, you're paying your debts to the Shasana. Right? And when you make offerings such as what you have brought along today as well, that's also an offering you're making to the Shasana, and therefore paying your debts off. It's ultimately debts off to the Buddha and the Mahasangha, because it's they who we are incredibly indebted to. It's not to them, none of us would be here today, none of us would have any chance of our salvation. So we are incredibly grateful that you have made this offering, but I also want to remind yourself that this is something you have done for yourselves. So well done. Okay, so we'll chant the Arya Maitreya and transfer merits before we close. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of birth, freed from the fire of decay, freed from the fire of illness, freed from the fire of death, freed from the fire of sorrow, freed from the fire of lamentation, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of suffering, freed from the fire of discontentment, freed from the fire of exhaustion, freed from the fire of disappointment, freed from the fire of clinging on to the five aggregates, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the suffering of samsara, freed from the disease of samsara, freed from the fear of samsara, freed from the flames of samsara, freed from the burning of samsara, freed from the sorrow of samsara, freed from the lust of samsara, freed from the clutches of samsara, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. The Kama worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the Kama worlds. The Rupa worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the Rupa worlds. The Arupa worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the Arupa worlds. All worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from all the worlds. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Letting go is the only salvation. May I and all beings let go. Detachment is the only salvation. May I and all beings be detached. Being freed is the only salvation. May I and all beings be freed. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the bondage of lust, freed from the bondage of aversion, freed from the bondage of delusion, freed from the bondage of Mara, healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana, 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 healed with the eternal bliss of Nibbana. Okay. Let us all take a moment to transfer merits that we have all acquired today. First and foremost, let us once again remind ourselves that it is because of the Supreme Enlightened One, the Perfect One, the Omniscient One, the Infinitely Compassionate One, the Samma Sambuddha, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because of His selfless commitment, dedication towards the liberation of all sentient beings, including you and I, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. Let us also on this occasion take a moment to remind ourselves of the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas, as well as the members of the Mahasangha resident throughout the world, including the Mahanayakas, Anunayakas, and as well as all the other forefathers of the Mahasangha, thanks to whom today we have the Tripitaka, which they have protected and preserved and passed down through the generations for us to study, understand, analyze, and comprehend. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as on this occasion, taking a moment to remind ourselves of the members of the clergy, the members of the Mahasangha, as well as the nuns who are resident in your local temples and your local nunneries. Although you have come along to this monastery today to engage in meritorious deeds and listen to the sermons, do not forget for a moment that it is they who have always been by your side, come rain or shine. Through thick and thin, they have always been by your side to help you, assist you, to guide you, to help you become better people, to help with your children, Dhamma parcel, and so on and so forth. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. And may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of your family who are among the living today. Your mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, grandparents, and so on and so forth, as well as those who will have helped you and supported you and assisted you to be here today, either by informing you about today's sermon, or perhaps by inviting you to be here today, or perhaps by offering you a transport, or maybe by making your stay here as comfortable as they could, or perhaps by offering you with refreshments in whatever capacity they might have helped you, assisted you, supported you. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as those who would have taken and gotten involved in making arrangements in this Dhamma hall by making these floral arrangements as an offering to the Dhamma, and anyone among you who might have contributed towards that, as well as those who have continued to contribute and be involved in spreading the word of the Buddha throughout the world, in making these sermons available to a large audience of people out there, either in audio form or in written form. Whatever capacity in which you will have helped, supported, assisted, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. And may through the power of these merits, they all be able to abstain from the unwholesome deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmanas, spirits, demons, and the dead, as well as those men and women who will have fought in a long war in Sri Lanka, members of the armed forces as well as the police force, as well as men and women who might have lost their lives during the war, be they friend or foe, may they all be rejoicing in the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us also not forget anyone who might have lost their lives in natural calamities such as the tsunamis, earthquakes, hailstorms, and so on and so forth, not just in Sri Lanka but also in other parts of the world. Bearing in mind for a moment that each and every one of these beings will have at some point been a father to us, will have at some point been a mother to us, which with compassion in our heart and in our minds, let us transfer the merits that we all owe towards them, as well as every man and every woman and every soul who might have helped us, supported us, assisted us in this infinite long journey in samsara, in whatever capacity, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes. And may through the power of these merits, they abstain from the unwholesome deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also transfer merits to men and women who are involved in leading this country, developing this country, and providing safety and security to our nation in whatever capacity. May they all be rejoiced in the merits that we have all acquired today, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And also on this special occasion where a lot of you have taken great effort and made a huge contribution in terms of making a uniform available to our Anagarikas and offering it on this auspicious moment, may all of those who will have contributed towards that meritorious deed, either by exerting their energy or perhaps by making a donation or even by putting their hands together and passing on their blessings, whatever capacity in which anyone and everyone might have supported us, assisted us or blessed us, this meritorious deed, may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, or perhaps by getting involved in tailoring the suits, perhaps by offering the fabric, or in whatever capacity they might have contributed or gotten involved in the production of those uniforms. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. And may all those beings be able to rejoice in the merits and abstain from the unwholesome deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the course of all the merits that we have all acquired today, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahatun Mahanses and Arahat Mehenin Mahanses in this blessed land in our very lives itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may you and I and everyone who has gotten involved in making this sermon possible, making this event a possibility, be able to become one of those Arahatun Mahanses, one of those Arahat Mehenin Mahanses, and be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana in this very life itself and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the Noble Triple Gem be with you all forever. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.